Aero-News Network's coverage of the 64th Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Pilot Communications USA is proud to introduce our latest headsets, the Carbon A1 Active Noise Reduction and the Carbon P1 Passive Headset. Carbon fiber makes our headsets 30% lighter than others, which significantly reduces pilot fatigue. Our BlueLink hand control unit allows you to connect two devices at the same time, and the record out capability can send audio to an onboard camera or digital recorder. Get the headset that's so light you may forget you're wearing one at pilot-usa.com.
Aviation's #1 safety equipment manufacturer. New ELTs and safety products that activate life-saving rescues across the world. ELTs and safety products for every type of aircraft. General aviation, business jet, rotorcraft, commercial aircraft. Easy installation, affordable pricing, safety and reliability. Visit www.artex.com to view our selection of ELTs and safety products today. Artex, your best last chance.
Alrighty, folks, we're back again. Holy smokes, we didn't learn a darn thing yesterday. We're gonna go ahead and do this all over again. It's been a wild week for AEA 2021 at the International Convention and Trade Show, the Anatole Hilton in Dallas, Texas. Gotta tell you, the mood here is very upbeat. People have come to do business. Yes, everybody's had the year from hell like everybody else has, but it hasn't stopped them, it's emboldened them, it's empowered them, and they learned a couple things about themselves, their company, and their industry in the process. And I gotta tell you, confidence is high, not just in the industry, but in the future. We're expecting records at Oshkosh, we're expecting records at AUVSI a few weeks later, and NBAA is already bragging about running out of the booth space for this October. So, that being said, we saved the best for First, so there we go. Yes. So right off the bat.
Yes.
Jamie Luster with Genesis Aerosystems. Jamie, tell me what's new with Genesis. You guys kind of rocked the NPI the other day, so
yeah, thanks,
fill me in.
Yeah, thanks. So we announced our new radio product line. We have a whole suite of new radios that we're offering. The new features that are associated with this that kind of separates it from its competitors is that it is a software-driven radio.
Second. You don't have any competitors, do you?
A few.
Okay.
But they shall remain nameless, so yes.
Deal.
And it's cool because we can do different frequencies, different watt settings. We can have UHF, VHF, nav, marker, beacon, and it's all in one slim line radio piece with a very small radio rack. And so at different price points to be able to provide the customer with whatever their needs might be. We can meet it with one simple box in a very small space. And so that's very exciting for us. And we're also coming out with a control head for that. So if it is not installed with our EFISes, for example, then a customer can install it with the control head that we're designing. Another cool thing is a hardware and a software change to our 3100 autopilot. And this changes the LCD from kind of that military green to a nice white LCD display. So it's just a little better for viewing angles, to be able to see in sun, etc., which is important for pilots. And then we're adding some new features, such as the capability to have en route VNAV, as long as it's coupled with a compatible EFIS and a compatible GPS. And so it's, just some new features on the 3100.
Outstanding.
Oh, I should mention, I apologize, another new feature that we're announcing is better integration with the Aspen Pro Max displays, and so we have annunciations.
Great systems right now, and boy, do they have those priced right.
Right, exactly.
See their trade-in program?
For the Maxes?
Yeah, they trade in the old boxes to get a Max?
I don't know on the Aspens. Yeah, I don't know. I know that if you have an older S-Tech autopilot, we do offer an upgrade path to the 3100 because it utilizes the same servos as it did with the 55Xs and the System 30s that are out there. People are flying.
How have they been as a partner?
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Aspen is a good partner. We're excited that people can now have that combination of an Aspen display and the 3100 autopilot and really be able to complete that avionics package in their aircraft.
There have been a lot of transitions for Genesis, obviously with some major moves in the past, as well as a number of different directions for product lines and so forth. How would you evaluate the Genesis Aerosystems position right now in the industry?
I think we're in a very unique position because we cover so many categories of aircraft. So we have very general aviation focused with our autopilots, for example, but we also can offer them into the Part 25 market. With our EFISes, it's very much special missions oriented, so military trainers and things. So we really cover a vast part of the aviation industry. It's not one small basket, which I think is unique for some avionics companies these days.
Tell me about the military market right now. It's been a curiosity to me because I watch that go in phases.
Right.
We work a lot with a lot of that community, and right now it seems like everything's up for grabs.
Yes, it is. I mean, we've done a couple of different things. So there's still a lot of the older military helicopters that are out there, like the Bell 412s and the U-860s, and we've just worked programs to get STCs on both of that for a full avionics suite. So people can, rather than buying brand new helicopters, can take those older aircraft, turn them into a civil reg, and then upgrade the entire avionics suite to include even an autopilot on those platforms. In addition, I think you probably heard the news that we were selected as the EFIS source for the TH-73As that Augusta is working through their Philadelphia office.
Right. They just delivered the very first one just the other day.
Yep, they did, and it with our EFIS, they were able to get IFR certification on a single engine helicopter, and that's the first time that's been done in, I think, 20 to 30 years, so huge accomplishment.
Not the normal, that's for sure.
Right.
And what was interesting is that particular competition went through a really strict evaluation process.
It did.
We were talking to some of the NavAir folks who were involved in that process, and they were talking about orders from on high to be aggressive.
Yeah.
So that's a big win. That's a very big win.
It's huge, yeah. So we've been excited about that. You mentioned before how everybody's been through a lot the last year and a half. And everybody has, but we've really been able to maintain. We've not seen a huge blip in what we've been able to do because of things like the TH-73A, and we found that even in the general aviation market that people were still spending money on their airplanes and upgrading and things, so it's still been a really good year for us despite all the hurdles I think that a lot of people had to endure.
Interesting. How have things changed in light of the change in ownership?
Right now we are in a observation period, so I was lucky to be part of the M&A process with Moog, and during that evaluation, me personally as an employee was very, very happy that they were the one who ended up purchasing us. We have very similar philosophies on employees. We consider them very much assets, and so we really like that aspect of it. But it is a different market for the Moog Aviation division. So they're just kind of coming in and looking at what we do, our sales channels. They don't utilize dealers, for example. So this isn't their show, but it is very much our bread and butter, and we require qualified dealers to do the installations for our products. So it's them getting to understand kind of that market side of things. But there's a lot of collaborations. I think Moog is very, very interested in helping us with the research and development side of things and moving that forward. So I think over the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot of technology advancements from Genesis being a Moog company.
Outstanding. How would you evaluate your GA positioning right now? GA has been kind of a toss-up. There have been some folks that have been dominant in this industry for a while, and they're taking that for granted. Do you see opportunities?
I do. I think in general aviation, it is a lot about building relationships. It is very much about, customer support.
Big time.
And that's really what we want to focus on with the general aviation market is we really pride ourselves on that personal touch of customer support, and we continue to hire field service engineers for that very reason. So I think there's definitely opportunities there to continue to thrive in general aviation, even if more competitors are kind of starting to show up in the market.
The business and commercial side, and you mentioned your interest in Part 25 and all. How is that proceeding? What is, without giving away everything here, what kind of strategies are you following?
So right now we're looking for the right partners for the Part 25 market.
Ooh, good luck.
Yes, thanks. Well, I mean, we're in discussions now, but I can't, say too much about that.
Just
but
you, me, and that camera.
Yeah.
No sweat.
We'll whisper. Ignore the mic that's attached.
Exactly.
Yes.
Oops.
Yes, yeah. So we're looking for the right partners to find the right platforms. It's obviously a situation where most people are going to want to have a full avionics upgrade as well. So we are talking about EFIS and then potentially autopilot that integrates well with that. So it's an ongoing process. I wish we were closer, but it takes time. And STCs take a while.
And let's face it, this last year didn't help anybody.
It didn't, yeah. We're very fortunate that on the Part 23 side, we have our own ODA, so it helps out with our STC process. But for Part 25, it would be a full FAA program.
How are you finding staffing right now in this industry? We were talking to Mike Adamson the other day, and there's a strong emphasis right now on training the next generation.
Yes.
Obviously, you folks in the position that you have, you're looking for talent as fast as you can find it.
Yes.
But the input says right now that it's getting increasingly tough to find.
It is, and I look at myself, I'm going to date myself because this is my 20th AEA, and I was so excited when I had my first one in 2001, and I look around now and I'm looking for the me's 20 years ago.
Bingo.
And they're just not here anymore, and I don't know if that's because we're not getting the word out of what positions are here and how exciting and rewarding these jobs are.
It's a great industry to get into.
Right,
too.
absolutely. So I'm hoping that with some initiatives that AEA is doing, I know that AOPA is also trying to step up their game with educating younger people in high schools to choose aviation as a career path. And I fully support that and hope that, because you're absolutely right. We have many job openings right now, and it is a struggle sometimes to find the right candidate. And one of my first questions that I normally ask is, do you love aviation and why? And it's important for me to have that feedback of, yes, when I was a kid I went flying, or I love looking at airplanes, or when there's one in the sky I have to look up, and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Grab those people.
Yeah, and they must be out there. We just need to get the word out that come join us,
Are we educating future candidates as well as we should? Are there things that should be done?
There are things that should be done. Yeah, I don't think even the counselors in high school really have an understanding of what the jobs are and the capabilities are. And with a lot of schools now offering a lot more technology-based courses in high school, I think we need to start trying to get in more information on some of the technology advanced opportunities there are, whether it's being a mechanic or whether it's being a DO 178 software engineer, or it's designing the next aircraft type. But there's a lot of exciting things that kids can do, and this future is going to, the industry is going to change over the next 10, 20 years with
especially
unmanned flight and all that kind of things.
Yes,
yeah.
Because it's obvious that we're going to be dealing more and more with either reduced pilot or autonomous aircraft. We're going to, good grief, Airbus is even talking about a single pilot 350.
Right.
Which is kind of a real mind warp on that one. There are extraordinary opportunities. Yes, there's a tremendous amount of money being thrown around for pie in the sky.
Right.
But it only takes a couple of slices of that pie to really work for all of a sudden an industry changes overnight.
Right.
And we are on the cusp. The next 3 to 5 years are going to be extraordinary.
Yes.
So what's Genesis doing about that?
Not anything that I can talk too much about, but I'm sorry.
You
Don't
always
kick
have the
me
good
out.
Secrets.
Yes.
It's not fair.
I know. But I can tell you that we are very much keeping an eye on it, and we're super excited about it. So again, when I mentioned we should be seeing some technology from us in the next 5-ish years, you can probably make that correlation.
Well, what's nice is with the different markets that you're in, and then you add to it the rep you built up in the military community, which is with AFWorks and everything else. Let's face it, they're leading bleeding edge on a lot of this. So you are in an interesting position at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could just imagine behind closed doors what's going on. So
yeah, we worked hard since 2014 to really bring the Genesis Aerosystems brand out, and we really have found by word of mouth that we are the avionics selection of choice for the special missions market when it comes to a modern avionics suite.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
I have asked everybody who's been up here over the last 2 days about what this year meant to them, what it did, how you survived, and more important, how it changes you and your companies as a result. So now, your turn. You're on the hot seat.
I'm sure it will be very similar to other answers perhaps, but as most companies did, we sent a lot of people home to work. Our repair station and our manufacturing folks, who if anybody's watching, want to thank very much, because we couldn't do it without you guys. They had to go to the office, but everybody else was able to work from home, and it was really refreshing to see how well people were able to cope with doing that. Zoom meetings were very successful, things of that nature. So we were able to kind of move on almost seamlessly with even the tragedies that were happening in the outside world. I think all of us in sales really missed traveling, because I would get to about 3 weeks and start getting antsy to get somewhere. And so that was very difficult to mentally overcome. But yeah, we're excited to get back out there. When I was at the first Nighter party, I took pictures of everybody in the ballroom, and I thought, this is what avionics looks like opening back up, and I'm excited. I'm excited to get back out there, and I think the attendance here proves that everybody else is too. So our company was very fortunate that we didn't have to take any drastic measures when this whole thing came out, and our business survived quite well during the pandemic. So I'm hoping everybody else did as well. So that's all I can say about that.
How do you think this changes you as a company for the future?
The pandemic?
Yes, just everything you learned, everything you had to do. What do you keep from that? What did you learn? How do you think you and the industry changes?
I think for the company standpoint, we are not as rigid about, the coming into work thing. And I think that will continue. There will be, certain positions that need to be there, but it's not going to be as much about you need to be here, Monday through Thursday, because we have every Friday off. But from a company standpoint, I don't think it changes much except for kind of that acceptance, if you know what I mean. And from the industry standpoint, I think it's going to be interesting to see how people continue to purchase. Are they going to maybe accept more information on Zoom calls or finding things online, because trade shows haven't been for a year and a half, and Do they miss that going and touching and feeling of the equipment at trade shows, or are they going to want more, virtual information and that kind of thing? So I think that's something that remains to be seen.
Yeah, it's an interesting process. We were talking to Kevin Hayes from Alto, and he was talking about when he does, when he does their audio surveys and so forth of the aircraft, they actually started doing it remotely for a while.
Yeah.
Which kind of blew me away. Pretty interesting that they had enough accuracy overall to be able to do that and change it. And now to them, it's an additional way of reaching out to customers who don't have a travel schedule or don't know where they're going to be from one day to the next, but hey, we can pipe you in and off you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely, but I'm hoping that we still get to have that face-to-face interaction.
Oh, boy.
I've missed seeing people's smiles.
Oh man,
so
especially
yeah.
here. This industry, this part of the industry is such a group of crazies.
It is.
We have so much fun. We love them all dearly. Well, except for one or two. But seriously, they're amazing people, and AEA has done an extraordinary job of keeping this all under control under, again, extraordinary circumstances.
Right.
And to see this the way it is just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jamie, we so much appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
I wish you continued success. We're looking forward to seeing everything you do from here on out. Of course, your NPI, like everybody else, will be broken off into segments, and
Yes.
they'll be available over the next few days on YouTube, Vimeo, and 70 of our other outlets, including our Roku and Fire TV outlets now.
Excellent.
Yeah, pretty cool. So, if you aren't famous yet, you will be. I mean, everybody knows Jamie around here, so there you go.
Thanks. I am Googleable.
Yes, so again, thank you so much. And we are going to take a short break. We've got Jim Turner coming up from RC Allen. He's got one of the coolest, let's just call it what it is, toys around. And we look forward to talking to him in just a moment. We are live at the AEA 2021 International Convention and Trade Show. Man, I'm getting ugh. And we're looking forward to coming back in just a few minutes, and we're out.
to life. Every day is a new beginning. Every day is a new day. And everything's coming your way.
And there we go. You know, I get this countdown before we start a segment from Crystal on the camera. It's just like she's ready to launch the missiles. It has that tone, like all of a sudden, you know, the launch tubes are opening up, the missiles are launching, and somebody's about to get nuked. Anyway, we are back with the second segment of our Day 3 coverage of AEA 2021, live from the Hilton Anatole in Dallas, Texas. It has been a great week so far, and I got to tell you, there is a positive vibe, especially when we get to play with the cool stuff. Jim Turner with the RC Allen Mini 6. Tell me what you got.
Well, the positive thing is we have 2 gyms here. So what else would you want?
Double the gyms?
That's it, yes.
Quadruple the trouble.
Yes.
That's my wife.
That's for sure.
Yeah, you know.
Well, the Mini 6 is a product that we came up with. Basically in 2009, we came up with the first digital attitude indicator that was fully certified with TSOs.
With a surprisingly good display for the time.
Yes, very good.
I remember that really well.
Right.
Looked at it and went, oh, I can actually read this one.
And since then, we've been working on moving through the products and getting something a little bit better than what we had at that time.
Okay.
So what we came up with is about 5 or 6 years later, we came up with the product that was a digital heading indicator. And we were the first ones to have a heading indicator with a magnetometer that was built into the product. Everybody else has to have a remote magnetometer to make it work. So from that point on...
That's because they're dumb and you're smart.
Oh, no. They say they can't do it, and I agree with them.
Oh, there you go.
They
okay,
can't do it. So what we did is we decided that we needed to move forward. And by moving forward, we came up with a new product we call the Mini 6. It has attitude heading. It has altimeter, it has airspeed, vertical speed, and turn and slip. The nice thing about...
And it slices, dices, and makes Julian fries.
The nice thing about our product is, unlike our competitors, they have STCs so they can be in an aircraft. We have TSOs. And the difference between an STC and a TSO is we meet minimum standards set forth by the FAA for these products, which also means if you have an airspeed in there, this meets the same TSO that the airspeed has.
Okay, I get you.
This meets the same TSO for heading. So if you want to replace your product, you can replace it completely with this unit.
All right.
That makes it much easier for some installers. The other nice thing about our product is it is a very simple product to install. You have power and ground, you have pitot-static, and if you want to tie to GPS, you can also tie to GPS in it. So it gives you all this information, and unfortunately it doesn't tie into other products today, but that is for the future. We're trying to move it into that. And as you see right here, it's a very nice looking display. It has the different things. Setup is very simple as well. There's ways to get in there and set up all your parameters. So if you wanted to set up the airspeed at a certain spot or the altimeter, you could do all this as well. A very simple menu on that. And I don't know whether I really want to get into that yet. Maybe some other time when we go flying, we can show you how that works.
Interesting. Well, the thing that gets me is the overall size, because this is something you got to see, folks. Look at that.
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw something with anywhere near this kind of capabilities, both in the form factor as well as the lack of depth?
Correct. Everybody thinks that this is our AHRS. This is actually the old battery for the old mechanical units, and we use that to walk around and show people. The new battery is this little bitty piece right on the back here.
Okay.
The unit itself is about 1.5 inches in depth. So it makes it very simple for install, very simple for if you have a place where you have a depth of maybe 2 or 3 inches, you can actually put this unit in there and it will function very nicely for you.
Outstanding. That's very cool. And boy, I don't care what kind of panel you got, this can fit.
Yes.
Outstanding. Put that back out so we can see it. There we go.
As one of our girls said, the RC Allen name is one of it is one of the well-known names in the industry, but we're probably one of the smallest companies with the biggest name.
So the name's been out there forever and a day. I've been in this industry for, soloed the glider 50 years ago, so that tells you something. But I know the name and known it for quite some time. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
I've got to ask the P word, price.
Price. Well, you're looking at around $3,000 pretty much installed on that product right there. If you wanted the heading indicator to go with it, you're looking at about $2,400 on that. So you're right around $5,200 to $5,600 on the install, as well as with the units themselves.
And as you mentioned, the install's a great deal less complex than some of the brand A, B, or whatever. So there you go. Interesting. The development process on this had to be fascinating.
It really was. Our people, we've gone through a couple different generations of people that were involved in this. The fun part about it is the engineers that were involved, they were thinking out of the box initially. And now then we had some competitors come up, and we took those products and looked at them and decided what we liked and what we didn't like. And for the most part, we found a lot of things we didn't like, which made our product much better as we move through there. So, and every day is a little bit different. We go flying with it periodically, and it's just amazing some of the things that our guys find out. Well, we can do this, and every day is just an adventure.
I can believe it. Interesting. How long is the battery good for?
Well, the battery is good for 2 to 3 years. Okay, lifetime on the battery is 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
The battery itself is good for approximately an hour. If you lower the lights on the front to 80%, you'll get 4 hours with it.
Okay.
Basically, all the power is going to the lights on any of the digital units themselves.
I love there's been a number of companies with glass panel devices that have put battery backups in them, and I think that's the smartest move we've made above and beyond going glass panel.
Correct.
Is having that kind of system redundancy, because, man, I'll tell you what, if it's not the panels that bother me, it's everything behind them, because it's only as good as the last time you kicked it under the panel or missed the rudder pedal or whatever the case may be.
Very true.
And I've had a couple of interesting electrical issues over the years, and boy, the one particular case when I was flying with something with the battery backup, it was particularly, I was particularly thankful for that because I was in the soup. And,
True.
Granted, needle ball and airspeed ain't what it used to be, buddy. I'm telling you.
No, it is not.
No.
I can tell you a quick little story.
Please.
This battery was designed to work with mechanical units. It will last an hour with mechanical unit. When we came out with it, we got an order from the Saudis. They wanted these units to keep their Wi-Fi operating when they went from ground power unit to ship's power.
Okay.
So they're used 5 seconds, but they still bought them and they still replace them, and they're on all their 747s they have.
Well, there you go. And let's face it, we know their money's good. So hey, go
we know
for
their
it.
money's good.
Sell them out, buddy. I mean, I'm all in favor.
It is some of the interesting places where all these materials go. It is just crazy.
What's the reception been like so far?
Fantastic. Okay. Unfortunately, I was not able.
Away with a baseball bat?
Oh, that pretty close. I was not able to get everything put together for our new product introduction. The biggest problem we ran into is we've submitted everything to the FAA, and we're just waiting on the sign-offs. And by Oshkosh, we should have the sign-offs.
Ooh, Oshkosh is going to be fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun for us. And the nice thing about it is everybody that's come by and looked at it, they say, I have a customer that needs one. I have a customer that needs one. They don't want all the bells and whistles that the other guys have. And all I ask people is, what are you using your instrument for? Is it for fun, or is it for business? If it's for business, you may want to go another direction. If it's for fun flying with quality products, you got the R.C. Allen name right there.
There you go. Outstanding. The sounds like you need to stock up for Oshkosh, buddy.
We are working on that right now.
I can imagine. Because everything we've heard, and we've been talking about this for the last couple of days, says Oshkosh is going to be a barn burner.
Yes, it is. It is.
The advance ticket sales have been outstripping 2019. The Sun and Fun numbers were record-setting and phenomenal, despite everything that those poor guys had to deal with. And you add it all up, the result is that it's just accelerating. We see it here. So Oshkosh is going to be fun, and MBAA I think is going to be just as much fun because they're talking about selling out booth space. So,
well, and
amazing
the thing about our company is we're trying to be safe about things.
Yep.
You know, we're not going overboard. Most of our people have had the shots, and if somebody's uncomfortable, we will work with them on that aspect as well. We always have the safety sanitizers and things like this around, so we're just trying to be safe overall.
Yeah, well, going to Oshkosh, bring the 55-gallon drum. You're going to have a lot of people around.
Yes.
It's going to be interesting.
Yes.
So what is projected availability going to be then at this point?
We will start basically selling the units at Oshkosh.
Okay.
The FAA has basically told us they don't have any problems with what we submitted to them.
Okay.
It's the FAA is just not always working. Right now, we've been told that they're not in the offices.
Yeah.
But they do have our paperwork. The guy is happy with it and has talked to our engineers and basically said he's just waiting for his boss to do the sign off as well.
Okay, interesting. What else at this stage of the game are you likely to be offering at Oshkosh then?
Well, we are trying to get some more information on autopilots. You just had a lady here with Genesis.
Yes.
And we've been working with Jamie a little bit
Sharp lady.
coming up with some alternatives to the large glass panels. With a smaller unit like this with the same information, they could not have to spend $15,000, $20,000 putting a big glass panel in.
Yep.
Where about $5,000 they could hook up with an autopilot and be ready to go.
There you go. Excellent. You guys are always innovating. It's exciting for you and certainly exciting for an industry.
Yes.
I've been asking everybody, excuse me, I've been asking everybody here about the effect of the last year.
Yes.
How you dealt with it, how it affected you directly, how it affected your people, how you got out of it, and more important, how it changes you as a company for the future.
Well, the positive and negative of it. The positive is we have government contracts.
Yeah.
And so we were...
Whether we like it or not, the government runs
correct.
unrestricted. Yes.
So we were able to continue to work. Yes, I lost probably 5% of our employees.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But that is kind of the way of the future anymore. We're leaner and meaner, and hopefully everything's gone real well for us.
I've seen the meaner. So,
yeah, you've seen that. Okay, good. Are my employees watching this now? But we have tried to be safe and keep our people working. We went to a 4-day work week, which kept everybody happy. We were able to do a work share in Kansas 4 days, and then we got unemployment for a day. We've had to go to full-time because of the product. The government's had some orders for us, and we've had our OEMs actually have been increasing their orders, which has been very good for us. And in being in Wichita, Kansas, with Spirit and all aviation, Textron, and you name it, who's there.
Aviation center of the universe.
Yeah, it's a lot of those people were out of work. Luckily, my family was all working, but we work hard. We've brought some people in part-time to fill things in, just so that we can keep people working.
Excellent.
This is more of a family company as well, because we have a lot of people within the family. Both my children have worked there. Everybody that's working in the booth today, their kids have actually worked there.
Oh boy.
The Kelly family has a lot of people that work there. I just hired another lady last week whose mother worked there, and her sister works there, and her other sisters work there. The machine shop gentleman.
So basically
actually,
nepotism.
nepotism.
Yeah,
we try to keep everybody happy and
There
fed.
you go.
So that's the main thing.
Outstanding. Well, I'll tell you what, the industry certainly is coming back strong. The spirit here is outstanding. We closed the day yesterday with Mike Adamson, AEA boss,
Yes.
par excellence. He's done a spectacular job taking up after what everybody thought was the ultimate leader for AEA, and she
Right.
certainly was at the time, and now Mike is doing a fantastic job. But everybody has that sense of optimism that, yeah, we dealt with it, yeah, we got through it, but now's the time to get back to business. And during all this, aviation in a number of ways got to really strut its stuff and show everybody how important this facet of transportation was. So I'm expecting that aviation in the long run will not only persevere, but do better as a function of all that exposure.
And that is correct. And we do business with some light sport manufacturers, and those are the people making the air taxi type
Yep.
information and flight. And we're seeing that is becoming, we talked about it, we saw it back in the 60s and 70s. Oh, this is what it's going to be in 2020.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And we are actually coming out with smaller products that actually work with a lot of these companies.
Outstanding.
So we've taken these and made them half size. And
Oh,
put
you're not
little
doing
screens.
2 1/4, are you?
Yes.
Did I just take the lid off of something?
No, we actually work with Icon on a 2 1/4 unit
Okay.
right now, and we may have to put more than one in, but it's one of these things that these are things that we're looking at as well.
Outstanding.
We're willing to listen, and whether it actually happens, well, that's great. If it doesn't, well, we're learning. And you learn from every time somebody comes and talks to you. You learn a little something.
There you go.
So, and I'm not old. I'm not too old to learn. So.
In this business, nobody is, because I'll
No.
tell you what, this business has a tendency to slap you up both sides of the face if you don't get with
Right.
the program. Interesting. Well, Jim, I have to tell you, you've been a delightful guest. I'm excited to see what you do with this. We're definitely going to have to stop by at Oshkosh,
You
and
bet.
we'll do a feature with you up there and
I appreciate
show
that.
everybody that you're alive and you're out there, and hopefully by that time certified. And then, of course, these are free samples, right?
Well, yes. Yeah,
Oh,
just
okay.
come. I'm going to store them over at my booth. So if you're not there by the time I leave,
I'm just thinking,
it's in the
okay,
mail.
I could use. I got airplane. Oh, never mind.
No
It's
problem.
just bad. I'm just so bad. So we thank you so much. We wish you the best of luck, and more important than anything else, keep us up to date news-wise. on
we
this stuff.
definitely
That's
will do that.
Aero-News. We do this literally 24/7. God help
And we
us.
appreciate you.
Ask my wife. I mean, she puts up with just tons and tons of malarkey because of it. Alrighty, folks, we're going to take a very quick break. We've got an interesting guest coming up. They've got a new program, and an old friend of ours, Van Dartis, had introduced us yesterday. They talking about doing something new, and I don't have a clue yet exactly what's going to happen with this, which is going to make this interview particularly entertaining. So for the moment, live from the AEA 2021 convention floor at the Hilton Anatole in Dallas, Texas, we're taking a break. Jim Turner here with R.C. Allen. I'm Jim Campbell with the Aero-News Network, and we'll see you in just a few minutes.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 64th Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
aviation's #1 safety equipment manufacturer. New ELTs and safety products that activate life-saving rescues across the world. ELTs and safety products for every type of aircraft. General aviation, business jet, rotorcraft, commercial aircraft. Easy installation, affordable pricing, safety and reliability. Visit www.artex.com to view our selection of ELTs and safety products today. Artex, your best last chance.
Pilot Communications USA is proud to introduce our latest headsets, the Carbon A1 Active Noise Reduction and the Carbon P1 Passive Headset. Carbon fiber makes our headsets 30% lighter than others, which significantly reduces pilot fatigue. Our BlueLink hand control unit allows you to connect 2 devices at the same time, and the record out capability can send audio to an onboard camera or digital recorder. Get the headset that's so light you may forget you're wearing one at pilot-usa.com.
All right, we are back. Fun day so far, a lot of interesting stuff. We led today with Jamie Lester from Genesis Aerosystems covering GA, business, military aviation. Just visited with Jim Turner from RC Allen, whose Mini 6 is going to make a few of his competitors very unhappy, especially when they look at the price point. And now I am here to introduce Bill Shields with Aero Documents. I ran into you and some friends yesterday, and you guys basically said, you're starting something new, and it was interesting and exciting. And I said, okay, put up or shut up. And here we go.
Well, thanks for the time. I appreciate being here. Yeah, the gentleman that introduced us has worked with me for...
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Van Dardis has worked with me for 20 years off and on. My name is Bill Shields. I've been a DER for about 17 years. Been in this business for 40 years this year.
So you know suffering long term.
Suffering long term is familiar. And like I said, I've been a DER for 17 years and kind of noticed that there was a pain point in the process between facilitating communication between the MRO or an engineering company and the DER. And you know, these MROs
you mean it's not flawless and works great all the time?
You know, it's not. And
destroying all my illusions at once.
Well, an email isn't as secure as it used to be.
Oh, howdy. Yep.
And so, you know, we've got these MROs that spend 100 man hours or more working on an engineering drawing, and then they attach it to an email and hit send to a DER, and that never seemed like a very smart thing to do.
No.
So we created an electronic cloud-based platform at Aero Documents to where the MRO and the DER can communicate securely. We built the platform on a HIPAA-compliant base, so it's secure. And the review process and the markup process for the drawings occurs in the platform. And so you don't have to email things. The only email that ever happens is a notification or an email with a link to the drawing that the DER needs to look at.
Okay.
If the DER adds comments to it, then the MRO engineer gets a notification that he has something new to look at. So it's that volley that goes back and forth. And then when the drawing is done, the DER gets a notification that the final drawing is available. He can complete his FAA Form 8110-3, his approval, and it goes in a locked folder until the client pays for it, and then they can download their 8110. So there's no more invoicing for the DER, there's no more accounts payable issues. It's the transaction's finished, the DER has his money within a day, and the MRO has their approval.
It sounds too simple. What's the catch?
Well, you know, I spent about 4 years working on trying to find the right platform. And I ended up finding a really, really bright young aerospace engineer who, a fairly recent grad out of Missouri State, out of Missouri S&T Tech out of Rolla, Missouri. He got out of school as an aerospace engineer, but found jobs doing web development.
Okay.
And so the good news for us is we created the back end from scratch. So if a client has a particular need, or they need, hey, we don't need to communicate with DERs right now, we need to communicate internally with our drawings, our drawing review process, then we have the ability to tweak the back end so that it can be specialized for each client.
Well, obviously, this comes from your experience in the industry and probably a lot of your frustrations with the industry.
Right.
Give us a real world scenario on how this would be utilized. I'm XYZ aircraft manufacturing par excellence.
Right.
And I'm coming to you with a problem.
So
how do you handle it?
So an avionics shop, like one of the attendees here,
Okay.
is working on, maybe they're installing a ADS-B STC in a King Air.
Okay.
And but the particular airplane
Just
they're
remember
working on,
that job isn't done until the paperwork outweighs the King Air.
That's exactly right. And so the STC paperwork doesn't apply perfectly to the King Air that they're modifying. So they need to do a deviation drawing. So they do a deviation drawing. Well, then that deviation drawing needs to be DER approved.
Okay.
So they would go to Aero Documents. If they don't have a DER, we have DER profiles on the platform. So they can go, and we actually, as they're logging in, we say, do you have a DER that you want to use, or do you want to use the platform to find one? If they have their own DER that they want to use, they can send the DER a link and say, hey, we're opening this project in Aero Documents, and we need you to look at this drawing.
Okay.
And once the DER review process goes back and forth, the DER gives comments, the MRO changes their drawing or updates their drawing. When that process is done, then they would release the drawing. There's a process within Aero Documents to release the drawing. We can put a watermark on it that says it's now the final version.
Okay.
And each of the old versions is kept on the platform for history. So if you say, the MRO engineer says, oh my gosh, my computer crashed, I lost the last version I did, it'll be secure on the platform.
Oh, gotta like that. One of the things I learned, I have a pretty extensive background in the test flying community.
Okay.
So I work off and on as a consultant to various projects, and we did a whole bunch of this, go fly that, and you watch the paper trail, you watch what they do, but more important, when it's all done, there's some guy, big money guy, big government guy, big this, big that, who needs to audit what you did.
Right.
How's the audit trail in something like this?
So it's great. You can actually see each of the revisions that were marked up, and then when you do release the drawing, we'll have the opportunity for the source file, let's call it AutoCAD or Word or whatever, to be linked with the PDF. So there'll be a matched set, if you will, of data that can be archived. And so that'll give a very dedicated, very defined audit trail.
Well, that's got to be a blessing to a lot of people. The ultimate or inevitable audit has been
Right.
the death of many a project,
Right.
especially when it comes down to, it's time to get paid or it's time to get certified.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
we need to go back.
And one of the other things that we've found, and from a real world perspective, is as you're doing these projects and you're getting emails, an engineer sends you an email. Well, I don't just get one email a day, right? So, so historically, you get an email, well, you miss it, and it says, so now you're searching back through the emails to find that one version of that one drawing.
Oh boy.
So that you can make sure that you review, the latest version, and now you don't have to do that. You don't have to go search through a bunch of emails. It's all on the platform.
Let me put you on the spot a little bit here. This is technically a replacement for paperwork per se.
It
But
is.
does it simplify the process?
We think it does.
Okay.
And the reason we think it does is for one of the things I just explained. You're not searching through emails. You're not having to change the file name. Oh, I need to add an underscore V3 now to the file name because I just reviewed it again. All of the file name, you don't have to change the file name. The file name gets appended within the platform. So yeah, we think it does. The ability to kind of see what's on your radar and not have to search through a bunch of old emails and worry about changing file names and sending some email to the wrong person with your intellectual property attached. Some things like that that I know for a fact has happened and have seen it happen. So yeah, we think we've simplified the process.
Now, is this program available now?
We just launched it about 3 days ago.
Oh, congratulations!
So we have an electrical systems DER on the platform, which is me. We have a structures DER on the platform now.
Okay.
And so I would say we're past the beta phase, but we're kind of in the crawl, walk, run phase. So everything works, and we're pleased with the technical capabilities of the system. But we know we're gonna continue to upgrade and continue to tweak. And so, but yeah, it's available now at www.aerodocuments.com.
That was my next question, is where people can find out some information.
Yep.
Are you using AWS as a backbone or an equivalent?
Google
Okay.
is the Google Files
Yep.
is where things get stored.
Okay.
And just real quick, so for AEA, this kind of a special, if you will.
Oh, go for it.
The Structures DER and myself have offered, if you sign up in June, we've offered a $99 8110-3
Okay.
for either structures or electrical systems for assisting an MRO in a major alteration. So we're happy to offer that if you sign up, and there's no cost to sign up. It's transactional fee only.
Okay.
So yeah, we're offering $99.
And I assume this is platform agnostic if you're Windows or
Yeah, we don't care.
Mac. Yeah.
Nope, it's platform agnostic, and
Okay.
we're just ready to move it forward. So
How's the reception initially? I know you've got 3 days of this, and maybe that's unfair, but I'm just curious what kind of comments you're getting from people.
well,
It kind of sounds to me like people, once they get this, are kind of going to go, oh, please.
yeah, it's been really good. I mean, everybody's got a lot on their plate. There was near record attendance here yesterday, and so everybody's got a lot. They're absorbing a lot. But like I said, this is really new for us. So we just wanted to get a little bit of exposure, but the reception's really good. The common response is, I can't believe it took this long for somebody to improve the process.
There you go.
So yeah, so I appreciate your time. Appreciate being able
it's
to be
interesting. You kind of many years ago when A&M was created, our excuse was we got tired of killing new trees with old news. And to a certain extent, you are now saving the rainforest once again with using the cloud and so forth. It sounds. See, the biggest problem with aviation, the thing that scares people away, is they consider every aspect of aviation to be this overtly complicated industry process, language, secret handshakes, and what have you. And the more that we can build systems that simplify, especially when it comes to the ultimate prove it, audit,
Right.
what have you, the better off we are. So what little you told me the other day before we invited you on sounded frankly like manna from heaven to some of the folks that I know and work with. I was on the board of a cargo airline some years ago, and remember some of the paperwork issues there and some of the things, and even discussion of, this would be so much easier if we did it this way or that way.
Yep.
I can't wait to see it in action. What we got to do when we come back this time next year, you got to tell me how you're doing.
That sounds
And
great.
more important, what you've learned. Because
Right.
I will bet you the learning curve on this is going to be absolutely amazing.
We're actually going to go, I'm going to go right now. We've got some demos we're going to do with some industry experts.
Excellent.
And we're going to take some feedback, and that's exactly why we're here. So
Alrighty, and that's aerodocuments.com.
www.aerodocuments.com, and like I said, if you're an MRO, there's a $99 8110.3 special this month.
And $99 in aviation terms is like 2 pennies.
Yeah, it's. I won't tell you what I normally charge, but it's not anywhere near $99.
Yeah, I've been around some of that and just realizing I'm in the wrong business. There you go. Alrighty,
well, thank you
folks.
for your time.
Well, we sure appreciate it. Folks, we're going to take, actually we're not really taking much of a break here because we're going on to something kind of interesting. Our good friends at ACR Artex can't be here. With international bases, so forth and so on, it's obviously difficult for them to travel. So the next interview was actually done several days ago with their James Turner. Now, James is an interesting guy. You can tell by the deep Southern accent, which actually is kind of Scottish, that he's a really interesting gentleman to speak to. Did a great job talking about safety systems that most people tend to ignore, whether it be ELTs, EPIRBs, and the like, personal locators, things of that nature. And we had a dynamite 15-minute chat on a number of safety functions and safety products that aviation needs to pay better attention to if, in fact, we ever get into one of those situations that we all fear. No, it can't happen to us because it always happens to the other guy. And so I'm excited to introduce James Turner from ACR Artex, and a truly intriguing discussion, one of my best interviews of the last couple of months. And we'll take it away and we'll see you in about 20 minutes. For the Aero-News Network, here at the Hilton Anatole, the AEA 2021 Convention and Trade Show. We'll take a break, see you in a few. James Hunter, ACR Artex, welcome to AEA 2021. We're so glad to have you, even though we're having to do that remote thing that's been so popular over the last year or so.
Well, it's great to be here, especially from my remote office here. I appreciate the time to spend some time with you today and review some of our products.
Well, first of all, for those of the folks who aren't fully conversant with ACR Artex, let's do the 60-second primer on all things ACR Artex. Who are you, what do you do, and why are you guys taking over the world?
So ACR Electronics is primarily a rescue beacon brand. We make rescue beacons for aviation, outdoor marine, which includes our personal locator beacons, and our EPIRBs, which is primarily used on boats. We have several other products, but rescue beacons is our primary brand. Our company is split into two, with our outdoor marine side and myself on the aviation side.
Well, you guys have done some amazing things technologically in the aviation space. And let's face it, the rescue game, or actually anything safety related in aviation, for some reason or another, becomes a horribly hard sell because nobody thinks of themselves needing all this stuff. And for those of us who've spent some time helping with CAP, or for that matter, have done ferry flights where you get out of sight of land and all of a sudden your engine goes into automatic rough, even though everything looks fine, so forth and so on. That's about the time when you sit there and go, okay, have I done everything I can to cover my butt in case everything goes bad? And you're the guys everybody should know in regards to that kind of technology and those kind of safety systems. What's currently available for aviation? Let's run down that first.
So let me just touch on the safety aspect for a minute there. So our aviation is inherently safe. But it's that one time that you need something that we provide. What we do, we actually have a survivors club where if someone actually uses our product in an accident, if they give us their story, we will replace that, the ELT, PLB, or EPIRB that was used. Mm-hmm. The great news is there's not many aviation stories in there. Mm-hmm. We have lots of survivor stories from people who have used PLBs, who have been in the backcountry, hiking, out of range of cell phone, broke a leg, various things. So the PLBs are great insurance for those people. As I say, ELTs, it's something that required on 99.9% of aircraft flying today. They provide that extra level of safety and security if something does go wrong. So what I'd like to start with today, I'd start on the GA market. Okay. I have a little bit of show and tell here today.
Oh, good.
So this is our ELT 345, incredibly popular. We're selling hundreds a month. It's been in the market for about 5 years now. It's, as I say, it's a GA model. It comes in mostly, it has one basically with a whip antenna. It has a 6-year battery life. We did start with a one size fits all kit. That actually had, if I can get this on the screen, this is how big this is, a 24-inch antenna. And we found over time through various shows, Oshkosh, etc., lots of people wanted a smaller antenna, which they had to step up to a different model ELT, more expensive ELT. Of course, in aviation, smaller costs more. So we introduced mid 2020. We introduced 2 new kits to the ELT 345 model line. One of them, so we still have the base kit. The other two models now have a 14-inch antenna, which is very popular. So we have an ELT 345 that comes in a kit with the 14-inch antenna, and another kit which comes with a 14-inch antenna. And we've introduced a slimline switch. Let me see if I can get that to the camera.
Oh yeah, very much so.
And the slimline switch can be installed either vertically or horizontally. We supply it with labels for both vertical installation and for horizontal installation. This is primarily aimed at replacing older models of ELT that don't use the standard switch. This is our standard switch, which as you can see is rectangle. So this is becoming very popular. It saves you from cutting a different size hole in your panel. So that was the introduction of the slimline switch.
Excellent.
So that's a big seller this year, really picking up steam, especially with the 15-inch antenna.
Outstanding. Okay.
So that information is on our website. If you can go and look at the models, we have a little chart there that shows you exactly what you're getting based on the kit part number.
Alrighty.
The next one I want to talk about, again, another very successful model is our ELT 4000. This might be familiar to some viewers. It's the same shape as our old C406 and B406 ELT, just a different color. What is unique about ELT 4000, which comes in fixed wing and helicopter model versions, is that this has an alkaline battery pack. Okay. So going back to 2013, when the incident with the Ethiopian Airlines aircraft and a competitor's ELT had a bit of a lithium battery problem, we've saw more stringent regulations coming out, and a lot of ELTs out there now don't actually meet those new requirements. They're still valid for installation on existing platforms, but they're not able to meet new requirements for new platforms. And ELT 4000, as I say, it's been very popular. It's been picked up by all the major business jet certifications over the last few years, and helicopter installations. We're selling this to Bell, Airbus Helicopter. It's going to Bombardier, Gulfstream, very popular. We're now seeing it get picked up a lot for aftermarket installs. Again, it's popular with because it meets the new TSO C126B requirements.
Okay.
It comes with multiple kits, ranging from it comes with a whip antenna, back to the old whip antenna too. It comes with a kit for that, rod antennas and blade antennas, so it can go across the whole fleet. What we see right now in the GA marketplace, there's no pressure on lithium batteries at the moment in ELTs. But certainly in the commercial realm, the ELT 4000 is very popular.
Excellent. All right.
Next one I talk about is I mentioned earlier, is our PLBs. We introduced a new PLB view going back maybe 1 or 2 years ago. We have two versions. We have the PLB 400 and the PLB view. The view has an LED screen. I'll see if I can demonstrate it, do a self-test.
Oh, okay.
So this gives you an LED screen. It shows you exactly what's going on. So it's a very, very great improvement to the brand. It has an antenna that will unwind.
Okay. Oh, boy.
Simple, straightforward. And this model is buoyant. Both models are buoyant.
Okay.
The previous Rescue Link, we had a buoyant and a non-buoyant, but now both models in the Rescue Link, the new models, are both buoyant.
I assume by buoyant, that would also mean waterproof to a certain extent.
Yes, it's waterproof. You can't go down too deep.
Yeah.
As the water pressure will switch it on.
Yeah.
So when you come out the water, you're activating.
Okay.
So yes, it's waterproof. It comes with various methods to clip it onto your belt or your vest. So that's very popular. That's the ACR PLB 400 or the PLB View. A Rescue Link 400 and Rescue Link View. On the Arctic side, we have this is our smallest PLB.
Wow.
By comparison, we can show this is very popular with the pilot community due to its size. This is a 7-year battery in it, so it's plenty of life. And the antenna in this one, let me see if I can show it properly. Pulls out.
Oh, there you go.
That's the antenna when it just winds back in.
Wow.
So again, this does not float on its own, but it comes with a buoyancy pouch if you need to have any water. But it's great for flying. It's a second level of protection if you're flying.
Okay.
So that's our products.
Let me ask a couple of questions about the PLBs, because an ELT, of course, for the aircraft is one thing.
Yeah.
For somebody who got stuck out in the boonies for a day and a half doing an engine problem, but thankfully was able to put out in a little road and way back boonies south of Wyoming border in northern Colorado. It was one thing to stay with the airplane and switch on the ELT. It was another where you knew there had to be some kind of population about 10 or 15 miles down the road based on what you saw. So the PLB gives you the ability to let people know, in addition to the ELT, that yes, you're down, but this is where you are if you're going to get aid. If you have somebody injured, if you think you see something populated in the distance, but it gives you the option of leaving
Right.
where your airplane is.
So yeah,
kind of like that idea.
So an ELT by its design has a built-in G switch.
Mm-hmm.
So the intention of an ELT is to locate the scene of an accident. So if an aircraft goes down, the impact should trigger the ELT and the G switch in the ELT, and it should activate. So that should give the search and rescue a location of the aircraft. So PLBs, on the other hand, are manually activated. They have to be switched on. It's a two-step process, so there's no false triggering. You have to open and then switch on your two-step. And this has a built-in GPS as well, so you can send GPS coordinates, so you can leave. So this is, as I say, PLBs, or personal locator beacons, for survivors. That's the subtle difference between ELTs and PLBs. Okay. Similar with EPIRBs. EPIRBs are generally water activated, and they give a location of the boat.
Okay.
That's a major difference between the different models.
Let's talk about the strides you're making in the airline game. You guys are in the process of taking over there. Talk to me about that.
So yes, so just on the horizon right now, we have a ELT 4000S, which is a survival ELT, which is a commercial aircraft requirement. It's based on the ELT 4000 alkaline battery pack. Right now, we have COSPAS SARSAT type approval, and we're just finalizing our TSO approval from the FAA. We expect we'll be shipping in September. So that we expect that to be a very popular product on the commercial aircraft. Lots of changes in that space right now. So we see a market opening for the Alkaline 4000S, survival ELT. And again, survival ELTs go in the cabin and are intended for survivors. So the idea is that if the aircraft goes down, they can take the survival ELT off the aircraft. It can be activated manually, or it can be activated by water. So if it's a ditching, the ELT, survival ELT is deployed in the water, it will activate. Little bit further down the road, right now, we're working on ELT DT, which is a distress tracking ELT. So traditional ELTs activate after an impact, not before. They can be switched on by a pilot, but traditionally the ELT will activate on impact. So after the disappearance of primarily MH370,
yes.
So there was a lot of debate about tracking aircraft. And so the decision was made to bring out new requirements about distress tracking as part of the GADS system. Mm-hmm. So the GADS system is a set of operational requirements, not equipment requirements. So there's different ways to meet the requirements. But what we feel is the best method to meet those requirements is to use an ELT DT. So we're basically taking an ELT infrastructure, and we're including some additional software, some additional monitoring, so that it's actually listening to the aircraft. The ELT DT is combined with distress trigger, so that the distress trigger will do the actual aircraft monitoring, and if it sees something it doesn't like, descent rates or increased speed or something, it can send a signal to the ELT-DT, which then can start transmitting prior to the end of the flight. So that's the change. So that's coming to commercial aviation aircraft, and around right now it's Jan 1, 2023. So that's what we're aiming for. We're working with several OEMs to integrate it into the platforms. Long lead times on these products, so we're working with them now.
Yes, I know some of the names that you're working with. You're covering some really big companies in that regard.
Yeah, so I mean, commercial operated OEMs. So that's really who's impacting this. The 777s of the world that are flying over water. Those are the aircraft that will be equipped first. It looks like the European regulations are going to actually require, on like most aircraft, even domestic, a 737 from Berlin to Paris is going to be required to have a DT at this point in time.
Fascinating. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds like you guys are prepared to meet all those requirements faster than most. Outstanding.
Yeah. So as I say, we're working with several of the large OEMs right now. Just a matter of time just to integrate into their systems.
Outstanding. Well, James, I got to tell you, you did a bang-up job in synopsizing what is really an amazing company. We've had a chance to work with your people quite a bit over the last couple of years, and the more we dive in, the more interesting it gets, because these are technologies and concepts that tend to escape immediate attention because it's never going to happen to me.
Right. And most of the time it doesn't. But it's, as we like to say, it's your last.
Your word
chance.
to God, my friend.
Yeah.
Word to God.
Yeah. So we're a very dedicated company. We believe in what we do. And, everyone that works at ACR understands that the products they do can save lives. So we're quite proud of that.
That must be immensely gratifying.
Yes. And we, as I mentioned, the Survivors Club. So we do have people that have survived come and visit and meet the employees. And it's very touching moments. Very touching.
That must be a party.
Yes.
Well, James Hunter of ACR Artex and just an amazing group of technologies. We appreciate you meeting with us for AEA 2021. For 22, we hope to get to meet you in person out there and see the rest of the gang. And God,
we'll be back next year.
Going on, the last year is way behind us.
Yes, I mean the one good thing that's been happening is a lot more people flying these days, so it's been good for one thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, once again, thank you for joining us on Airborne Aero-TV and our Airborne AEA Live programming.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the opportunity.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 64th Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Pilot Communications USA is proud to introduce our latest headsets, the Carbon A1 Active Noise Reduction and the Carbon P1 Passive Headset. Carbon fiber makes our headsets 30% lighter than others, which significantly reduces pilot fatigue. Our BlueLink hand control unit allows you to connect two devices at the same time, and the record out capability can send audio to an onboard camera or digital recorder. Get the headset that's so light you may forget you're wearing one at pilot-usa.com.
ELT is just another tick on your pre-flight checklist, until you need it. Did you ever wonder what would happen if you had an engine failure over the mountains, marshland, or other dangerous terrain? Take to the skies confidently with the most reliable and highest performing ELTs and safety products on board that instantly mobilize life-saving search and rescue across the world. Read survivor stories from aviators and adventurers who survived life-threatening encounters thanks to ACR and RTEC's life-saving technology. Luck favors the prepared at survivorclub.com.
We're back. While our interview with James from ACR RTECs was running, I grabbed a quick sandwich, and we are back. And I got to tell you, we're going to have some fun with this one. Andrew, you and I have talked, fought, whatever the case may be, for years and years and years. You've been through some interesting segments in the industry. And the fact of the matter is, boy, have you had an interesting landing.
It's been a ride for sure. Would not have ever expected to end up at a Honeywell after True Track, but life kind of leads you down all sorts of interesting pathways.
It's let's see, we're having a mic problem here. There we go.
There we go.
And we're all set. Oh well, this is the joy of live webcasting. It's just so much fun. Okay, we got audio on him now?
Sorry about
Okay, guess what? This is the Aircraft Electronics Association, and you just flunked, buddy.
It's not the first time I flunked, it's fine.
Yeah, just fail up.
That's right.
That's what you got to do in this business.
Right.
Anyway, let's go back to the beginning. Okay.
You bet.
Bleep. Yeah, exactly. Andrew, we've had an interesting association. We've certainly had our share of interesting conversations, interesting fights, interesting everything. But watching your progress through the industry is, shall we say, been quite entertaining. True Track was an extraordinary effort at a time that came out of right field, surprised a lot of people, and became part of a major change in the industry.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me ask you this. Summarize your True Track experience a little bit.
True Track was actually fantastic. It was an opportunity for me to come into an industry that I already knew well because I was an airport brat as a kid, right? Grew up around aviation, loved aviation, never dreamed I would actually get to work in aviation. Jim Youngkin and Chuck Bilby, the two founders of True Track, took me in very, very early. I was the first employee hired. And we got to create something really cool there. I got to learn everything that Jim Youngkin knew about autopilots, which is a lot. And if I retained this
Holy
much
smokes,
of it,
yeah, really.
then I did really, really well.
We've interviewed him a couple times, and I'll tell you what, he's forgotten more than I've learned.
Absolutely, absolutely. The man was a pure genius, no doubt about it. So at TrueTrack, I saw very early on kind of what was possible there. And I had always told Jim and Chuck, we need to certify this autopilot one day. And they weren't really interested in that. It wasn't something that spoke to them. They were having too much fun in the experimental world. But of course, I, being me, wanted to see what could be done, how could we challenge things, how could we push the envelope. So kind of reached out and started doing some research on that many, many years ago, and watching the winds of change as they blow back and forth in the FAA and in the industry and with ASTM and all those sorts of things. So I was able to learn so many things along the way, and finally got the TrueTrack Autopilot certified. And then in 2019, Honeywell knocks on the door and says, hey, we'd like to buy this product line. And
here's my bucket of money.
Well, not quite like that, but
oh no,
I'm not saying I did poorly, that's for sure. I enjoy doing what I do.
Let me indulge in the fantasy. Here's your bucket of money.
Well, everyone envisions this very large bucket of money. I'm not saying I wasn't paid well for what we did at TrueTrack, that's for sure.
It was a big bucket of money.
For me, it's always about having fun, though, right? I mean, with the shirt and the
nothing
coat
says
and the
fun
hat,
like
right?
a big bucket of money. Sorry, had to ride that one for all it was worth.
You are welcome to ride that one. It's just fine.
Oh.
For me,
of course, it's strictly out of jealousy, so go for it.
The cool thing is I get to keep my long hair and my cowboy hat no matter where I go, right?
Which is hysterical when you consider the average corporate culture of people in this industry. So go for it, man.
But it's what, it's synonymous with what I built at TrueTrack,
Exactly.
right? And people walk up to the booth and they'll say, all right, where's the long-haired kid with the cowboy hat? Because I know he knows about autopilots. And that's really what we built at TrueTrack, with me kind of becoming the face of that. So, it was an opportunity to get to explore what other areas I can contribute to. And so getting to do some of that at BendixKing and some other stuff we're doing at Honeywell. And there's some challenges in the last year or so, but we're certainly getting in a more positive direction now, that's for sure.
So, as I understand it, even bigger changes coming.
There are lots of big changes, that's for sure. That is for sure. I don't know how much you're wanting me to dig into that, but.
Well, you're heading into the unmanned segment.
Yes, that's true. I am.
Which is about as radical right now as it gets.
The new experimental.
And what's fun, we've had, as you know, we produce Airborne Unmanned for AEVSI, so we've been knee deep in this for years.
Yeah.
But the part that's exciting is we've been talking to people throughout the industry about what's coming and why.
Right.
And the funny part is they don't talk about the technological revolution. They talk about the social revolution.
That's right.
And that, once you wrapped your mind around that in the context of what's to come, that's when things got really interesting.
Yes.
So you got a big horse to ride here.
It is, and you know what? It's going to be so much fun. I love what we do in GA with the BendixKing product line, and Honeywell's trying to really expand and grow into kind of all segments. But UAM UAS is that brand new opportunity that we want to really get into that early and really help define that market. We've got so many great products we can pull from in different pieces of the company, and we can evolve the technology just a little bit, and we feel like we can really make a huge contribution to something that's going to be really, really big.
Well, I'll tell you what, your corporate backbone here has the potential to do amazing things, and has most recently made some real interesting decisions on what projects it's going to undertake and who it partners with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm really curious to see where it goes. And I realize there's so much of this you can talk about and so much you can't.
For sure.
But it is, I mean, the old line, what's the good of something so new? What's the good of a newborn baby? It's literally, and in this case, sky's the limit.
It's unlimited potential. That is exactly right. It's unlimited potential.
What technologies intrigue you the most right now going into UAM?
So being an autopilot nerd and for many, many years, obviously the fly-by-wire technology, the abilities there, But then you roll that into detect and avoid, an area where we're going to need huge progression. So take some of our radar technologies and roll that into a fully autonomous vehicle where the vehicle is intelligent enough to dodge birds and weather, and then evaluate the terrain as it's coming into land and things like that. So, that's amazing technology that's actually really only this much of a step from what we're doing right now today. So we talk about it being a technological revolution, but it's really, it's small steps. We're doing a lot of these things already, but we're doing them in boxes this size.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about doing them in boxes that are this size. And that's what really makes, to me at least, what makes all of this really possible, is that we can miniaturize
Focusing.
all of these things, we can focus, and we can take all of that knowledge that we learned over the last 50, 75, 100 years in aviation and roll it into, it's a helicopter. In general cases, it's a helicopter. It just has multiple rotors. It's electric. Maybe it's got a turbo generator running it in the near term where we don't have quite enough battery technology to get there. There's so many options to make those incremental steps along the way. I can talk about it for a very long time. You can get into SVO as another interim step before we go full autonomous, stuff like that. So some really, really great opportunities, from avionics to fly-by-wire to, there's a side of the company that I haven't been involved with at all, with our micro VCS and our cooling systems and all that sort of good stuff. So you got to have.
Well, this is the interesting. The area you're heading into basically is going to have to require you to be a master of all.
That's right. That's right. So I get to learn a bunch of new stuff, which is really, really exciting to me.
How has your history heretofore prepared you for this?
I've always been excited to learn new stuff, and I've always liked to push the envelope. When people told me that you couldn't certify the autopilot this way, my response was always, why not?
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I'd have been a little ruder, just going,
Well,
You had your moments are here, so yeah, there we go.
I can do those things. I just try not to. But it's all of that knowledge that I learned over the last 20 years in running my own small business, and the risk that we have to take as small business owners and things like that, which you are all too aware of as well. It prepares us for what we're really getting into in this new domain. Yes, we're Honeywell, we're a huge organization, but the UAM team is
with serious horsepower.
But it's a small organization where we can pull those resources and hopefully still move very quickly and be agile as necessary to find those strategic partnerships that really benefit us to not just secure wins, but to grow the industry.
There are a number of shoes everybody's waiting to drop. When Boeing gets really serious, when Elon jumps in.
Yep. For sure.
I know that's coming. We've had the chat.
That'd be exciting.
As well as what's the next step for Airbus? What's the next step for Google, especially after missteps?
Right.
Excuse me. Where do you see Honeywell in all this?
We play this game that we call Pick the Winners, and we try to keep our eyes really closely on the industry, right? And there's certainly some clear leaders right now today. There's some stragglers. There's everywhere in between. And sometimes it just takes a small cash infusion or another strategic partnership to move somebody from a straggler to a leader really quickly. You've got some early upstarts that are still going really strong, and we're trying to work with everybody we possibly can. Total honesty. That's been, for me, one of the really neat things, is hopping in and feel like I'm entering a new industry and then realizing that I know all the same people. And it's all the same people that I've worked with on certification projects in the past, or light sport aircraft in the past, and so you've already got those relationships in place, and it makes that opportunity to work together.
And you need to do that as early as possible, because about the time the light at the end of the tunnel stops looking like a train, and when people start seeing how this thing's all going to coalesce, is when the paranoia sets in, and you find out where your relationships are good and where they're not.
Right. Well, and you've also got the risk, if you're in that waiting game too long, of the industry passing you by.
Oh, right now in particular. I mean, this is light speed. It really is.
Yep, it really is.
Where's Harrison Ford when you need him? I mean, this stuff is just zooming past, and excuse me, folks. this next AUVSI Exponential, the one in Atlanta, is likely to be where we start seeing how it's going to filter out.
I think so. I think there's going to be some very clear leaders. I know there have been clear leaders in the past, and you spoke about missteps, but for a Google, a misstep is an opportunity.
Oh no,
realistically, right? So
they're brilliant. I mean, they treat every failure as what it is.
Yep,
okay,
right.
that didn't work, and we know that now, and nobody else does.
Right. That's right.
It's brilliant.
That's right.
Nothing wrong with that at all. The conversations, for instance, I've had with Elon Musk, he's not afraid of a failure. Failure is a step to success. And let's face it, it certainly seems to be working.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Holy smokes. So
that's right. So we're hoping to get some of those early failures out of the way with our strategic partners and help us develop a core product line that can really help launch and develop this market.
How pivotal will be the military in this? I mean, we've had some exposure to the AFWERX program and some of the things that are coming out of there, and they seem to be targeting and focusing in some unusual but inspired ways.
Right.
They're not the only ones. NAVAIR is working on some great stuff and so forth, but it seems to me that the military, which tends to grab what it sees outside of its own interest, is now pretty much dictating what they want,
right,
and leading from that example. Do you see that continuing?
Well, you know, the military is kind of an interesting piece of this, because a lot of the technologies we use today, they've been using for quite a long time, right? But again, that miniaturization aspect of it. So I do expect to see continued military presence there significantly, kind of helping push that envelope, honestly. Yeah, and I think that's a big benefit to the industry, for sure.
Fascinating. I'll tell you what, I like where you've landed.
Thank you. Thank you. Me too.
Good landing, by the way.
Me too. You know, very excited.
3 green, all the wheels down and stop.
That's right.
And I've been asking everybody here how this last year has affected them in particular. What they did to survive, what their compatriots did, how their companies did it, and then finally, after all that, how does it change who and what you are for the future?
Well, that's a very interesting question, actually.
And you got 1 minute.
Obviously, it's been 1 minute. Well,
no,
I'm hosed.
You got more time than that.
Obviously, it's been brutal, right? It's been a brutal year for everyone. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, it's awful.
For me personally, and for Honeywell, there have been certainly struggles. There have been some really big successes as well. The ability to get together with our teammates. We actually, on my sales team at BendixKing, we started a virtual happy hour. That even though now we're all traveling and whatnot again, we continue doing it because it's a great opportunity for us to connect. And so much fun for us to just sit down and kind of blow off the steam of the week, because everyone's stressed, right? So we did a lot of that. Several teams that I know around the industry, and Honeywell in particular, did that same thing very regularly. Yes, it's stressful. Yes, we've lost colleagues. Lives have been lost. All sorts of very, very terrible things. But look at this place here today. There's, 1,300 plus registrations, and nearly every company that we're used to seing is back here represented
today. From adversity,
today.
perseverance, and survival.
That's right. Everybody's here, and everybody's really excited. There's a lot of excitement, and the opportunities are still there. I talked to a couple of companies that had some of their biggest years ever in 2020. Now, there were some companies that were very far down. So there were definitely people that won really big in 2020, and there were people that lost really big in 2020. So out of that, like you said, that it seems like in aviation, we always rise to the challenge. And I know that's probably not just our industry, but it's the one I know. So everyone seems to
I think aviation does exceptionally well in that regard.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's so exciting to see and to be a part of.
Well, we're an aviation industry that's been taught from the very beginning to be prepared for the emergency.
That's right.
The problem is this was the emergency nobody really expected or trained for.
Right.
But at the same time, the attitude is you get through it, get on with it, learn from it, adjust, modify, and survive.
That's right. Adjust, modify, and survive. And it seems like nearly every company that, at least that I have relationships and friendships in, was able to do that. And now that things are starting to come back out of that, it's so exciting to be back, right? I know we're not back, but we're back.
This is a really good first step.
It's
really
a good start.
And Oshkosh looks like it's going to be a barn burner.
Agreed.
AUVSI Expo looks good. NBAA is bragging about running out of booth space.
Yes.
If this is recovery, I'll take it.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, NBAA is going to be fun. Looking for some fun stuff out of the UAM team to be displayed there for sure.
Well, we are going to be right there looking at it, sticking our cameras in your faces, being as obnoxious as possible. It's our job.
It's what I love about you.
Yeah, well, you know, there's at least something. Andrew, I got to tell you, I always enjoy chatting with you because it's never the same old thing.
That's true.
Gotta like that, and more important, it's been fun watching you survive in an industry that tends to take people like you, eat them up, spit them out, and forget about you. And you didn't get forgotten.
You know, I just can't let that happen, right?
No.
It's not the kind of person I am.
You know the people we talk about, the
right.
folks that have been through this,
sure.
you survived, and that's great.
For sure. You know, and the True Track customers are still extremely important to me. I still talk to many of them every single day and still try to help with support of that product and all that sort of stuff because they matter to me. They're friendships. They helped me build True Track. It wasn't me, they helped me.
Good deal. Andrew, thanks so much for your time. We
Thanks,
sure appreciate it. Alrighty, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be talking about fuel, and we're going to be talking about how to make sure we have it, when we don't have it, when we need it, and more important, maintaining our knowledge of all the above. So we'll be back in just a few moments. We've got Scott Philbin on deck. So this is Aero-News at AEA 2021 at the Hilton Anatole on the convention floor. We'll be right back. Alrighty, you didn't learn a darn thing. We're back, you're back. Here we go again. Folks, if there is an activity that is more critical to the success of your flight than watching that darn fuel gauge, I don't know what it is, because about the time it starts to circle in E is about the time that the so-called air conditioning system in the airplane quits and the pilot starts sweating. Scott, tell me about your company, where it comes from, what you do, and then we'll get into the specifics.
Yeah, Jim. The company started really as a request by Cirrus Aircraft to come up with something that was actually more accurate and more reliable, basically, than the fuel senders of the past. And they put the inquiry out to me. I had accomplished several things for Cirrus over the years in the environmental control, their oxygen system, and came up with some creative and unique solutions. And they they targeted me as someone who might be able to do this. And we, took their request very seriously. And we put a whole bunch of systems on a boat and went boating and started evaluating different technologies and different capabilities and looked at the basic output to find out really what could be done to actually make an aviation specific fuel sender and do so for a reasonable cost. We evaluated a lot of things and really it started coalescing on an idea to retain the float but really pair it up with a much more modern, much more technologically advanced sensor to determine where that float was in the fuel column.
Well, the lack of accuracy in old style fuel systems is legendary.
Yes.
I mean, it hasn't been that long in the past that we stopped carrying our little cut off yardsticks to check tanks and this, that, and the other. And it's been a miserable experience because even that wasn't the most accurate way of doing things, especially when the ramp was a little bit inclined. So finding a way to be both accurate and cost effective is kind of like the holy grail for safety of flight.
I agree completely, and I might have thought about an idea or prediction, or I've been in aviation literally my entire life, and my father is an A&P IA, retired of course, and he told me getting involved in this I would be sued within the first year.
Oh, don't get me started on the lawyers.
But very much to our surprise and actual benefit, we have 80,000 fuel senders in the field. Okay. 80,000. So we're covering maybe roughly 10% of the aircraft component in the world. We haven't had a single fuel starvation incident or accident to date, knock on wood.
Yeah.
I don't think that holds forever, but the idea is...
In other words, what you're saying, to run out of fuel with a system of your manufacturer, you got to be really dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. I will guarantee that you had adequate warning prior to that happening to you, and that has been what we can look at. I think, or I believe, you're never in a cockpit with a pilot who experiences that, though they've talked to us about it. The surprise, the literal surprise that all of a sudden that the air conditioning system, as you mentioned, suddenly comes to a screeching halt and you're forced to find a landing location. The surprise is the component that gets you there. And it doesn't do us in the aviation field very much good, because normally those sort of activities tend to make the evening news.
Yeah. And not in a good way. You're not taking the happy hour on that one.
No.
Crazy. And the sad part of all that is no matter what happens, it's going to be reported inaccurately by the general media. Tell me about your technology, and I realize within the limits of what you can really explain, especially without having something in front of you here, but why is yours a better mousetrap?
It's an interesting technology, and really it's a technology that replaced potentiometers, which would have been the traditional position sensor in use, not only in aviation but also in automotive. And automotive was looking for a better solution, so they settled on this conceptual idea. It's old, called anisotropic magnetoresistive, and I realize...
Ooh, say that 3 times fast.
That's a big word.
Yeah.
But what basically it is a compass, or more accurately, a magnetometer that points to the float, in a magnetic position. So it's a compass essentially pointing to the float. When you step over to that magnetic component and it's electronic, you can now pair it up with a microprocessor and do the things that you would expect to see in aviation. But in automotive, it's the same technology you find in the throttle, for your throttle by wire or your brake by wire, your steer by wire. So the same confidence that you have of walking into a new car dealership and taking a new, let's just say C8 Corvette out and stepping on the gas pedal
Oh,
and
yes,
let you
please.
go.
Yes,
I
please.
know. Or stepping on the brake, that same level of confidence, what you're not even thinking about is the same level of confidence we're supplying to giving you accurate fuel indication.
One of the things that comes with building a better mousetrap is the inevitable issue with regulators.
Yes.
When you come up with a new technology, especially when, and I agree with you about the old fuel systems and Brand C there, because I was an owner at various times, and yeah, that was not their best moment.
No.
So they definitely needed to make
It's
yet another
significant improvement. Yes.
Significant is one way to put it.
Yes.
There was a reason the chute got used a little bit too much in those days. So when it came time to get past the innovation stage and get to the certified stage, how big a mountain was that to climb?
Initially I thought that I'd been involved in aircraft certification my entire career, first at Gulfstream and on business jets and other things. So I had a lot of experience and a lot of experience in AMLs working for my prior company. And I thought that this would be relatively straightforward, but we approached it from a TSO level, and as much, I guess, negative thought has been thrown at the TSO, but it actually is pretty applicable, and it's really more or less a self-certification. You present your case to the FAA once you've completed your work. And we got through that fairly easily. The next step came to convincing the FAA. I would say that was a small mountain to climb. And like any good story, there was a bit of theatrics.
With the FAA?
Do tell.
I just wouldn't have guessed.
Well, there's a big issue with lightning protection in fuel tanks. Wings are zone 1, very prone to lightning strikes, and the FAA is very concerned that a lightning strike that induces a current in a wire cannot make it into the tank. Conversely, or if the lightning strikes and goes through the tank.
Otherwise known as TWA 800 paranoia. Yes.
Yeah. Or it goes into the aircraft wiring and exits out some other undesirable location. And we were reaching sort of an argument that wasn't getting anywhere. So I took our fuel sender and I hooked it up to an outlet plug for the wall. And basically, while holding onto our fuel sender, as I was talking to them, going, I don't understand your concern about how lightning is supposed to get from the wiring. And as I plugged it in the wall, while they all stood, like ready
for the boom.
Yeah, ready to resuscitate me at the time that this was going to happen. And smoke came out of the end of it, as stuff inside melted. But I was perfectly safe holding on to the outside of the sender. But it proved my point very dramatically and without question afterwards. So we tabled that discussion and we got to more.
Of course, nobody would ever insure you again for life insurance.
No, but
suicidal ideation.
Yeah, we did have some, in good cases, sometimes the regulator brings forth, the FAA being them, brings forth a good point, which should be explored. But really it was a matter of convincing them that what we were doing was safe, was effective, and really they got on board. And to no one's knowledge, in 2000, I would say 15 or so, at the EAA, when the administrator, the head administrator comes to the EAA and gives a speech, meet the boss.
I'm there every year.
He mentioned our name right out there in front, and I wasn't there, but everybody was like, "What? We solved fuel quantity? How did we do that?" But I guess my story of plugging into the wall made it.
That was Mike Puerta, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we were there for all of them. We shoot them and so forth.
Yeah,
we got video of that.
Really,
so,
I'd love to see that because all I got was the blurb on Twitter.
Oh yeah, Nathan. We always shoot.
Oh, awesome! That would be
the boss. We'll have to go back and take a look at the archives, see if we got that.
I'd love to see the crowd reaction.
There you
what
go.
happened?
Yeah.
Really? What? So yeah, no, yeah, it is difficult. It's amazing. We just finished up doing a system for the Beech 18.
Oh, God bless.
I
got many, many moons in those babies.
Really?
Oh, running jumpers and so forth and so
Wow.
on, which, yeah, love them to death. They are the most cantankerous beast in the world, but at the same time, there's something about them that just makes you love them to death.
The sound.
Oh, there you go.
The
Well,
sound
that too.
alone. The sound alone. We did a B-17, one of the flying B-17s.
Oh, cool.
We've done all manner of Grumman amphibious aircraft.
Well, you're having some fun. You get to play with great toys, don't you?
We've done some of the CASA planes we're being asked for up in Alaska. Yeah, it's we tend to take on challenges even if they don't appear to be. I would say you would think there would be a market there. It just improves our capability of addressing a difficult situation. So
Learning curve.
we get involved in other things, but they open up solutions for other more common aircraft.
What's your favorite so far?
I think my favorite so far is getting the system done on the de Havilland Beaver.
Oh,
One, I love them. One, it brings back memories of flying into Canada and going fishing. So I love being around them. It's always, anytime I've been in a Beaver has been a pleasant experience. And getting a solution for the Beaver, I don't know, it warms my heart because the component part that they would normally have relied on is really no longer available.
that was not the most dependable fuel system in the world either. It had its moments. It could be pretty cantankerous.
When you look at the complexity of the system, it was a well-designed system for its age. It was based off of World War I or earlier battleship gunnery. Applied in a smaller version, but yeah, I had to find references in my dad's avionic manuals. Yeah, I know, from the early 50s.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
It's where the expertise was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that had to be a fun project. Those are great airplanes, especially when they pair them with the right set of floats and just go out and boonie bash and all that. They're marvelous birds. One of my fondest memories was running up into Alaska and boonie bashing around in a Beaver with the late John Denver. He was a dear guy, dear friend and a great guy. And I got to tell you, what an extraordinary airplane. It just read everything out to you. It's one of those airplanes that just basically said, listen to me and I will not lead you astray, but listen.
It's interesting to mention because it's sort of like it follows in my life. I was at Bombardier and we're doing systems for the Canadair Challenger and even into the corporatized versions of the regional jet. And, I was invited to a party. And Bombardier always threw parties. You'd be there and their Circus du Soleil would be there. I think you might have been at one of those.
A couple of them over the years.
Yeah, and it was, it's always a really entertaining thing. They really set, they provided information, interface of what you needed to do, and then they threw one heck of a party. And I'm standing there and I'm talking to these old guys, in the corner, and we're having a beer. And the reason for the party was to celebrate the original engineers who worked at de Havilland, and those were the guys who designed the Beaver, the Otter, and the Dash 7, and which I don't know. I think they were involved in the Dash 8 partially, but that was going to be the end of their career. These were the guys who designed the aircraft, and there I am standing, and we're talking aviation engineering things, and the next thing you know, they're going, and we'd like to congratulate, and all three of them get up on the stage, and I was like, that was cool.
There you go.
That was cool.
Well, let me ask you this: what's next for you guys?
Interesting. I have a good crew and I have a good group of young engineers, and we all realize that fuel is, it will still be around in powering aircraft, through my lifetime, but the future is probably going more towards electric. So we're working with one of the electric aircraft manufacturers, and we're using the positional technology that we have and the mean time to failure, which is over 60,000 hours in Cirrus aircraft, and we're pairing that up with a dual system in order to provide a throttle system for electric aircraft, as well as doing some of the other systems where this sort of level of position control, reliability, capability, its accuracy would be of critical importance. And looking at a few other systems on the aircraft that measure angles that might be advantageous that our technology could be applied to.
So you're not going to get left behind, are you?
I'm trying not to. I got a good crew. I want to keep them active. I want to keep them involved.
Trying to second guess the future is interesting. Many years ago, I owned a paper magazine. And when I got out of all that to start Aero-News, everybody thought I was nuts. But sometimes you can see when there's time to make a right turn.
Yep.
And it sounds like you're well aware. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting hybrid programs. You may not be measuring fuel, maybe you're measuring hydrogen, maybe you're measuring, God only knows. But it sounds like you're starting to think in all the right directions.
You can kind of guess at what the future holds, but as long as you
the
set a direction.
Is kind of guess.
Kind of guess. But if you set your sights on the fact that the world is not going to be the same 10, 15 years from now, you're better able to find that next ride and that next aircraft, that next trip.
Scott, I appreciate so much you being here. It's been a pleasure. It's been a while. I actually even forgot the last time we did the interview, and Palm Springs is a distant memory.
Yes.
Although there are some really great restaurants out there. But we tend to judge our AEAs by the really great restaurants we found. And we've been doing really well in Dallas, by the way.
Had a Venezuelan breakfast this morning.
Really?
Out of this world.
You got to tell my people about that one.
Yeah.
We'll have to check it out. But for the moment, it's time to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes with Angela Anderson from Robotic Skies. And in the meantime, once again, thank you so much. Continued success. And make sure when it's time to send news out, you send it to us first. Those other guys, they don't know what they're doing.
All right.
All righty, folks, we're going to take a quick break. This is the Aero-News Network live at AEA 2021 at the Hilton Anatole and Dallas, Texas, and we'll be right back.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 64th Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Pilot Communications USA is proud to introduce our latest headsets, the Carbon A1 Active Noise Reduction and the Carbon P1 Passive Headset. Carbon fiber makes our headsets 30% lighter than others, which significantly reduces pilot fatigue. Our BlueLink hand control unit allows you to connect two devices at the same time, and the record out capability can send audio to an onboard camera or digital recorder. Get the headset that's so light you may forget you're wearing one at pilot-usa.com.
Introducing the new ELT345 from Artex. This emergency locator transmitter, or ELT, boasts an industry-low price, while providing the same quality and performance on which the Artex brand was built. GPS data is embedded within the first emergency transmission and provides search and rescue personnel with the aircraft location within 100 meters in less than a minute. Take to the skies knowing you have the highest performing and reliable equipment on board. View our selection of ELTs and safety products at www.artex.com. Artex, your best last chance.
Alrighty, we are back. We are down to the last hour of the AEA A&N extravaganza. It is so nice to be back, I gotta tell you. It was funny, the first day yesterday when we got started with the live interviews, I had about a 5-second stretch there where I'm kind of going, okay, how do I do this again? And I'm hoping by now we kind of get our act together. I am pleased to introduce Angela Anderson from Robotic Skies, Director of Marketing.
Yes.
Director. Yeah.
I know. Super impressive.
You know, huzzah, huzzah, hail to the chief. You are one of those people that's had the chance to work with some of the most interesting companies in the business, and now you're in the drone game. And if there is anything right now that is more exciting and yet at the same time so mysterious, because the directions it could go from here are beyond belief. I mean, what is it? You know, it's just hard to believe. So you're in the middle of the maelstrom. Lucky you.
Yay! It does feel that way some days, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Joe. Good to be here with you.
So first, let's talk about Robotic Skies. It's not a company that many people in the manned industries have heard of, but obviously is making its way through the unmanned community in a big way. Brad Hayden, of course, the guy who left a good job, decided he was going to try to make a success of himself, and one of these days he might. But Robotic Skies is definitely making a name for himself. So tell me all about what Robotic Skies is doing right now and its place in the industry.
Yeah, well, it is interesting to have a foot in both worlds, on the manned side and unmanned, and in a way being a bridge between. These aircraft, well, and they are aircraft. I think
no doubt about it.
That's definitely a shift that has taken place. It's beyond hobby. These are aircraft that will be operating in mixed airspace, shared airspace.
And are already accomplishing incredibly complex missions.
So much. So many use cases have been put to the test, and global organizations are seeing the benefit, from an economic standpoint, efficiency, safety, above all, keeping people out of dark, dull, dangerous, dirty places to accomplish all manner of missions. Technology's been amazing to see evolve. Of course, Brad is very involved on the regulatory front as well, to see all this come to fruition and really be able to scale globally.
Well, the drone community has already proven its worth in a number of quasi-conventional missions that were heretofore manned, whether it be ag, whether it be survey. Boy, there isn't a real estate operator out there right now that isn't using one. The farming community has just been extraordinary. Some of the work that's being done. Got such a kick several years ago with the Yamaha helicopter guys and what they're doing, and especially in little rice fields in Japan, places I actually have been, and what they were doing and how they were doing that. Now we're seeing, incredible capabilities with very high-end sensors that are allowing drones to survey for all number of hazards or capabilities or metrics, and keeping up with that mission, and especially finding who and what can maintain those systems. Your work's cut out for you, girl. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and that you'll hear this phrase in the industry, that data is the new oil, and it really is with these drones. Your mention of all the sensor types.
Yeah.
that is the gold in all of this. And certainly as the missions become more complex and carrying heavier loads, autonomy is a huge topic right now. Autonomous missions with larger platforms, larger payload, flying longer distances.
It's going to be tough to keep up with all this. Now, Robotic Skies' overall mission is to be able to build a maintenance network around the unmanned community.
Yes, so we are essentially building a global marketplace, and we've got partners to make this happen. So on the one hand,
Brett's not doing
working,
the whole thing by himself?
Yes,
you know he'd try if he could.
Yeah, oh yeah. He, single-handedly, he's juggling all these pieces. Yeah, it's amazing. He's been at it since 2014, and is, a very passionate belief in the way this industry is headed. And so far, all of his predictions, we're seeing the industry head exactly that way.
It was an interesting move. I remember talking to him at the time. Because he was our interface with a company that worked with quite a bit and liked a great deal and still do and work with them and all, but we were sitting there going, what, you're abandoning us? And then it was surprisingly effusive about his hopes for the future and how confident, it takes people with a certain vision, and confidence is kind of a double-edged sword because it can bite you as well, but man, he was confident that he had a direction which he knew would have to be modified or changed, but boy, he stuck to it. And look who your partners are. And I know you've had some pretty significant investment from players who know what they're doing and have a lot of cash. So you obviously are heading in the right direction.
Yeah. And we know that aircraft operating in shared airspace, the FAA has a say in the safety standards that are in place. To protect
whether
that.
The man community likes it or not.
It'll happen, and I truly believe it will be a good thing, and we'll find the path where it will work. So we've got our partnerships with manufacturers and really helping them establish or optimize a maintenance program and get their maintenance manuals in order and prepare themselves for the field support that's coming. And then the really cool thing about being able to leverage the existing infrastructure, the existing MRO infrastructure, providing a new revenue stream for Part 145 repair stations that already have all of the knowledge and skills and the quality management systems in place that
Just
are going to be critical.
Just a different platform to work on, isn't it?
Exactly.
Which brings up the question, with the interface that is necessary between companies that have heretofore expended all of their efforts in the manned community, how much distrust is there from the manned community finally having to go into unmanned, or for that matter, what kind of hassle are you getting from folks who kind of go, well, that'll never work, that's not going to happen?
Maybe I'm not in those circles, but I don't feel like I hear that.
Good, okay.
And in fact, many of the use cases I've listened to of, for energy companies, that type of thing, who've talked about putting their drone program together. If there's an existing flight ops department, from the get-go, they're in coordination with a flight department. So
really?
It's from the ground up. There's an integration happening.
I remember when drones were coming on the scene that there was a lot of hesitancy, and you're going to ram my airliner, or ram my G2, or whatever the case may be. But well, I'm glad to hear that people are getting with the program, because it's not like this is going to stop. Yeah, they got no place to go but forward. Interesting. The manufacturers that are prominent in the unmanned community, how have they embraced your programs?
Very much so. And I think it's, once we have a discussion with them, it's like a weight comes off. First of all, it's,
we don't have to fix our stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, please.
It's a bit of a relief, because they're so busy, doing their R&D, building systems, selling systems, to to think beyond, okay, we do want to scale globally one day. How are we going to support those customers all around the world with quality service and cost efficiency and all of that? To know that that's already solved for them is a relief.
Excellent.
And to know that we bring the aviation knowledge that they're in the process of building up. And
well, I think too that one of the things that might have helped this transition is you're both coming out of the man community. You know all these players, they know you. You speak the language, and so that's got to help quite a bit in the circumstances. What do you think are your biggest challenges going forward?
Biggest challenge is timing, and our sweet spot is, so to back up a little, our sweet spot is going to be working on aircraft that have been type certificated, and there's operator certification requirement, which comes with coming with that is a need for a certified maintenance solution. So that's our sweet spot of where we're going to serve this community best. So that's coming. Yeah. There are many airframes, or OEMs in that process. So it's just getting over that hurdle.
The avionics community, let's talk about this community in particular. They have possibly the biggest stake in this because the airframes that are coming on the market, the propulsion is simple, the navs are simple. It is the mission-specific technologies that are going to require real expertise in electronics, because these are, and in many cases, are electronic devices. Period. I mean, there's no other power source to speak of. What advice do you give to the AEA community about being a part of the upcoming drone revolution, and how can they do that through Robotic Skies?
So you can always reach us at roboticskies.com.
See, Brad, we gave you a plug, buddy.
Yeah, definitely check out our website, and you can reach out to us through there and inquire if you're interested in being a part of our network, or if there's any drone manufacturers out there watching. We're always looking for new partners to work with. And
what's do you find it takes a while for these folks to get the message, or is it fairly quick on the upkeep then?
It's one conversation typically.
Really?
One conversation, and
I want to be in that business so bad.
and they get it. Well, from a repair station standpoint, the way our model is built, it's very low risk. Raise your hand to participate, and when the time comes, we're going to give you the training you need. There's no fees or equipment or anything that you need to really invest in until there's work to do.
There you go.
So very easy from the repair station side. Manufacturer side, we need time, some engineering time to get trained up on the system, and we handle the rest.
There you go.
We handle the workflow. So
for somebody who has been a part of general aviation, you've been an aircraft owner and obviously a pilot, coming into Unmanned, what's your biggest surprise? What was the thing that shook you the most?
Oh gosh, good question. I think it was perhaps the pervasiveness already. I think I would say like the visible part of the industry is like aerial photography. It's obvious. It's apparent in real estate and insurance, and wedding photography, that type of thing. It's a very visible thing, but I guess what I didn't realize is how much like the energy industry has embraced it for inspecting infrastructure, just all the various use cases that were already in play.
Wild stuff,
so, yeah.
including
and
most
the sheer
recently.
Number of manufacturers. Hundreds are out there.
Everybody's got an idea and an approach.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet the industry has achieved some amazing things. And it's funny you mentioned photography. As a photographer and videographer, the work that's coming out of unmanned systems is beyond belief. We saw some footage recently on some of the volcanic eruptions overseas where you could put a drone where you never think to put an aircraft. And I take that kind of personally because I was one of the first helicopters into Mount St. Helens many years ago after the eruption, and I'm just sitting there going, don't erupt again, don't erupt again, please don't erupt again. And it was nasty, and we had to worry about filters and this, that, and the other. And the drones just flew in there, and if one of them dunked, well, get another one and go.
Yep.
Big deal. Yeah, that's toast, we expect that. Call the insurance company. But the imagery that comes out of this stuff and the way you can translate the world and some of the footage that's coming out is amazing. And yet, on the other side of the coin, these are how the fields are being taken care of. These are, farmers are checking the North 40 from their breakfast table. And all the other things that are occurring out there, surveillance, what have you, work in law enforcement, work in military, wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible, and that's actually one of the issues that some of these operators are facing is how to manage the sheer volume of data, and having a data plan in place to secure it, be able to process it, and get insights out of it.
Extraordinary. Well, I'll tell you what, always good to talk to you. I'm still totally dumbfounded that you got rid of the 170. Shame on you. We'll have to get you up in an airplane here sometime and get the rust out. But well, I'll tell you what, you at least had good taste in airplanes, that's for sure. And we appreciate you stopping by. Give Brad our best. Once again, folks can get a hold of you through roboticskies.com.
Correct. Yes.
And for the moment, we're going to take a quick break. Angela is being followed by Rick Perry, AEA's man in Washington. He is the guy who runs interface with the Puzzle Palaces in DC. Possibly the most knowledgeable guy in the regulatory environment that we've ever talked to. And boy, can he talk about it. So Angela, thank you again for spending time with us. We certainly appreciate it. For the moment, we'll take a break. This is the Aero-News Network, AEA 2021 at the Hilton Anatole in Dallas, Texas. We'll be right back. Alrighty, folks, we're back. This is the Aircraft Electronics Association Convention, Hilton Anatole Convention Floor, Dallas, Texas. And holy smokes, we are tail end Charlie now. We've saved the best for last. He paid me to say that. This is Rick Perry, AEA's man in Washington, the ruler of the puzzle palaces and the interface thereof between AEA and the rest of the world. Rick, how bad is Washington getting, buddy?
Oh, it is loony. But having said that, it's a relative thing.
Okay.
I've been in Washington for almost 30 years. And the politics of Washington continue to, be the topic of late night TV. But
not in a good way.
Not in a good way, and it doesn't really matter which tie you wear. But what's interesting is that from the regulatory perspective, everybody is so involved in the politics of Washington that in a lot of ways the regulators are just being able to do their job.
No kidding.
Which is really refreshing.
Well, there you go. So now's the time, huh?
Well, we're getting some long overdue things coming through the pipeline.
My, okay.
So it's going to be a very, very busy fall and 2022.
Yep.
It's been a really quiet 20 and 21 right so far.
Gee, I wonder why.
Well,
yeah.
Interestingly enough, that it's being in Washington. Washington, the city of Washington has been arguably shut down for the better part of about 15 out of the last 18 months.
Yeah.
But when you look at the authorities, the agencies, they're such a diverse group, and they've been working a mixture of on-site and remote already, so that what you really saw was simply those that did go in joining those that had been working remote for a long time.
Okay.
The guys, the folks that we work with, guys and gals, the folks we work with stretch from Hawaii to DC, from Florida to Montana and Washington. And so it really, when we did the government lockdown a year ago March, the single, I joke about this, the single worst part of the lockdown was that somebody figured out I needed 12 minutes between meetings instead of 12 hours.
Eek.
And your Zoom calendar, your Teams calendar,
tell me about
your GoToMeeting calendars, they just blossomed. But the end result is that projects that had been originally scheduled for 12, 18, 24 months, because of that, are now being compressed and being resolved in a very timely manner. So from that perspective, it's not all bad.
Okay, we'll take that. What are the official Rick Perry targets for the remainder of 2021? What do you think is high on your hit list as being needed by the AEA community to go forth and multiply?
Well,
I want to start with the little questions.
Needed, or what am I watching? Because we've got some things coming in the pipeline that are significant for the membership. SMS being probably the heavy hitter right now. Europe, the Commission has already signed the requirements, the decision on SMS for maintenance and manufacturing. We're just waiting for the translations and the publication of it. And we expect that literally anytime this quarter.
Wow.
Okay? And we know that's coming. The good news is that of the world implementation of SMS, we actually like the European approach the best of all of them.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, it's a much cleaner approach to incorporating the management system for safety along with your management system for quality, with your management system for business, your management system for personnel.
Okay.
And so recognizing that the management system is core, the objectives are the variables. So in some cases the objective is quality. Sometimes it's safety, sometimes it's profitability. But the core management system is the same. Europe has recognized that. And as a result, EASA's, at least the draft that I saw, their approach to it is bar none one of the strongest. Having said that, we know that internal to the FAA, so as we...
Of course, we're interrupted by Jeff.
Of course, yeah. Thanks, Jeff. So,
you know who your friends are?
So as you look at the FAA, they're working behind the scenes. So we know that we have SMS under Part 5 for air carriers, 121 air carriers.
Okay.
And that was mandated by Congress. But when the Congress mandated that, we had been working for a couple of years in rulemaking committee to put SMS onto all certificates.
Really? Okay.
So repair stations 145, schools 147.
The whole gamut.
The whole gamut.
Okay.
If you had a certificate, it was expected that you had SMS. When Congress mandated SMS for air carriers, the FAA withdrew that advance notice of proposed rulemaking.
Okay.
So they could focus on 121. Fast forward 10 years now. And
that's the silent auction that everybody can hear, by the way.
Yes. And so we're basically bringing it back on.
After this, we're both beating up Jeff Hill?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
So Jeff, you send me down there and then you, but so you look at the SMS, well, so we know the FAA is coming out with SMS for manufacturing, Part 21, and for 145 repair stations.
All right.
We believe they're also doing 135 and a few other things in there. Not too worried about 135.
Okay.
But in the case of the 145 and in manufacturing, we're watching those very closely.
I can imagine.
Where there is an industry standard for the implementation of SMS in maintenance and manufacturing. It's called SM001.
All right.
And it's an AIA SAE specification. And we're in the process of doing Rev 1 to it. I chair the maintenance subsection, but it also has a scalability subsection that's looking at that as well. And so we've got a number of elements in there. It doesn't really matter a whole lot. It is fundamentally in line with everything else. It's just a method of compliance. For AEA member shops or AEA member manufacturers, we already offer them an SMS tool.
Okay.
And we have for almost 10 years now, since Canada had mandated it. And so for the AEA member companies, we have the tools to implement your SMS as a function of your membership.
Okay.
It's included. There's no additional cost. There's nothing to it. So it's straightforward.
I like that.
So that's a big one we're watching.
Okay.
The other one we're watching is Mosaic.
Okay.
So
Man, talk about the rumor mill and that puppy.
Well, if you go back, 3 years to Oshkosh?
Yeah.
When the administrator threw that out there real quick, just kind of slipped it in?
Yeah, and then of course some of Jack Pelton's quotes thereafter.
Oh, of course.
Yes, that certainly created even more buzz.
Well.
Thanks, Jack.
So the FAA had the framework for Mosaic going through rulemaking.
Okay.
So they had a mechanism, they had a tool. And then Congress mandated some UAS requirements. The ability to certify UAS, appropriate certification, operations, things like that. So here you have certification that has a known rulemaking tool in the pipeline that is focused on principally experimental light sport and Class 1, 2 legacy airplanes.
We've been waiting for manna from heaven for decades.
Right. And so you have this tool, and now you have this congressional mandate that says, oh, by the way, you need to address drones.
Thank you very much.
So Mosaic gets hijacked, and it is in fact this mega rulemaking coming out that will touch everything from what was promised with experimental aircraft, all the way through legacy, all the way through Class 1 and 2 legacy airplanes plus LSA, and oh, by the way, it'll have a whole section on AAM and new airplanes.
And it's not going to stop there, is it?
I don't know. The savior, if you will, everybody gets upset because rulemaking takes so long. And I tell people that, the reason that avionics and avionics technicians fight very hard to stay outside of the bureaucracy of the FAA, okay, is that the bureaucracy requires 5 to 7 years to produce a standard.
Okay.
Industry can produce a standard, a new standard, in 18 months, and a revised standard in as few as 6. So when we talk about technology, we can implement technology exponentially faster when it's through consensus standards and out of the AC rulemaking environment. And so you have performance-based rules. They come around, they feed us through consensus standards on how to comply, and it drives it all through together. So it's a good thing. The nice thing is, and this is the reason that Aircraft Cert has kind of hijacked Mosaic in the process, is they don't have 5 years to do a whole new rulemaking, so they leverage the one they have.
The scary part is the sport aviation experimental community are being led to expect, unfortunately by people who don't know any better, to hear about this at Oshkosh this year.
Very likely. I would not be surprised if it was presented that it's there.
Oh, I know, we expect a presentation, but they're expecting this to be a done deal, and that's not happening.
Well, first of all, it's not a done deal.
Yeah.
First, so what we will have, and it is required to be a proposal by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Okay? And so I doubt seriously it will be out for comment before Oshkosh. So I expect that they will probably talk around it. But because it is in fact
situation normal.
Well, but because it's internal to rulemaking, they cannot discuss it.
Okay.
It's under ex parte. They can't discuss the content.
I understand the rules.
So I fully expect that they're going to say it's there. They may talk about what aircraft may be affected by it. They'll generally talk about it. The real key to this is to follow avionics news in our case, Aero-News in your case in the industry, the trade publications and everything else, because when this hits the street, we will probably have 60 to 90 days to comment. And I encourage everybody,
time to get serious, from
the experimental community, through the light sport community, through the legacy aircraft community, through the drone community, through the AAM VTOL community.
Yep.
I encourage everybody to make those comments, whether they only look at their section of the rule, because it's going to be an ugly rule.
Yeah.
It will be one of the biggest rules you've seen come out in a while. When it comes out, focus on it, but submit your comments, submit your questions. If something doesn't make sense, ask the question.
The industry has been waiting piece to piece, reg to reg, proposal by proposal. Isn't there a more fluid way to do things? It just seems like so much gets held up in anticipation of something that may not happen for a year or 2 or 3, that there has to be some way to bridge the gap.
Well, and that's what the agency has been moving towards. If you look back a few years when we did the Part 23 rewrite, when you look at what was physically done, and there's a lot of discussion and hype and everything else that went with it, and there's a lot of, you know, late night TV jokes, right?
Yeah.
But what truly happened was we looked at Part 23 and we separated the prescriptive language from the performance-based language, okay? And what that did was, so in order to deviate from the regulation, the FAA has to do rulemaking. Now they can do it as a special condition, put it out for public comment. They can do a number of things like that, but it is rulemaking. It has to go public notice, Federal Register. But when you go to performance-based rules, thou shalt be safe. And then you have a method of compliance to being safe, okay? Then it's easy to deviate. So when you look at things like the fundamental weight of light sport aircraft, that's really not easily deviated from. That's a hard standard, because above that you're expected to go Part 23 or primary category, and below that is light sport. So it's really hard when you have like that to deviate. But if you look at 23 now, the old 23 had, anything under 6,000 pounds, anything above 12,000 pounds, 12 to 19 was commuter category. So you had very specific. The new rule doesn't have those weights in it. It has the performance. What does the airplane do? I have 2 seats, I have a stall speed of this, I have a landing speed of this. And so that gives you the performance that allows industry to recommend things, to identify things, and to be able to bring new technology in without rule change. In the rotorcraft community, there's a kind of a consolidated rotorcraft regulation that's going final right now. And one of the things that it's curing, the old regulation said it must have incandescent light bulbs. And so this whole generation of LED required special conditions to get through.
Ridiculous.
And so they have been working very hard in implementing performance-based rules so that they are not the impediment to modernization.
Okay. Interesting. One of the things I wanted to bring up, and Mike and I talked about this yesterday, Mike Adamson, of course, our president of AEA, and pretty interesting guy in his own right. But we talked a little bit about where the next generation of technicians are coming from. And what do we do to, 1, encourage, 2, train, and 3, empower them to take this industry into the next generation, which is going to look wild. I mean, Jetsons, nothing.
Right.
It's going to get really intriguing. You've been involved on so many levels, but you've been working with the technicians, you've been working with the people who are coming into the industry as well as retiring out. What are your thoughts on the next generation and how we train them? Find them first.
Well, finding is no different than it's been 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't put a lot of weight on the skies falling. Okay? For a number of reasons. When the overall unemployment is 2, 3, 4%, and we have a growth industry, we're standing in line with every other growth industry.
Amen.
Bragging for people, okay? So, and when unemployment is 6, 8, 10%, we get to pick and choose.
Yeah.
So the physical counting of technicians, I don't get too involved in.
Okay.
What I do get involved in is understanding the career path of aviation technicians. Okay. And understand that when I was young, We were in the space race. Aviation was still special. You know, when you took a flight, that was to see grandma, that was
big deal.
Big deal.
Oh, you had to dress up, put your suit and tie on, a whole bit.
And now it's just another means of commuting.
Yeah.
And so the technology of flight.
Or a great place to start fights.
Yeah. The technology of flight doesn't terribly have that draw like it used to.
Okay.
The nice thing is that the new AAM community is ranking.
The AEA Educational Foundation silent auction will close in 15 minutes. Now is the time to get your bids on these great items. The silent auction closes in 15 minutes at 3 p.m. Thank you.
Time to launch the drone and bomb the hell out of Jeff.
So AAM is that new sexiness.
Okay.
Which is great.
It's going to be quite an attractant.
It is.
Good.
And I think when you flip that around a little bit, so you know, we need the sexiness to draw. The other thing is that there's a big movement politically to move away from academia, that not everybody needs to go to college. Not everybody needs a master's degree in political science to be successful.
Darn good trade
and
school.
That trades are not a four-letter word, right? And so I think the more that happens, the more we get there. Now, part of the problem is that the career counselors, the school counselors, can't spell aviation.
No.
Okay? They've never been exposed to it generally.
No.
And so they don't truly understand it, so they can't counsel to it. Programs like AOPA and Gamma and NBAA, where they're reaching out to elementary and middle schools more, helps all of us, right? But I think the big thing is that thing in front of you is really the key.
Yeah.
Because the legacy classroom training environment is being rapidly replaced with just-in-time learning and just-in-time capabilities. Now, fast forward to AEA, what are we doing? You know, we work very closely with ASTM on technician standards. And then I take those technician standards and petition the agency for acceptance of those in meeting regulatory requirements.
Okay.
So 2 years ago, we've had for a long time the NCAT and the Aviation Electronics Technician, AET, and then we have a number of endorsements. I petitioned the agency, AEA petitioned the agency to accept AET plus one of the endorsements as an acceptable means of compliance to the training requirements for repairmen. So if you look at the regs,
it seems to have turned out well, Rick.
You know, it's
instant segue.
Well, it's you know, the rule says 18 months or training.
Training. And
so we said, hey, this AET is so robust, it's the equivalent of clepping out of a class.
Yeah. Well, you guys have worked really hard on this.
Well, and so the bottom line is that we won it.
Yep.
FAA said yes. So all of the AET folks are eligible to be repairmen without any other defense. At this function 2 days ago,
right?
The FAA,
which you can read on Aero-News, by the way, shameless plug.
Which you can read on Aero-News, shameless plug.
Thank you, sir.
And Avionics News. And,
shameless plug.
Shameless plug. But the FAA awarded us our approval or acceptance.
It was a hell of a move, by the way. Congratulations.
For our apprentice program. You know, we worked for multiple years to develop an apprentice program in conjunction with the Department of Labor. So it's a Department of Labor approved apprentice program. What people don't realize is that opens up a lot of state funding for the small businesses who are running apprentices. So you get tax breaks, you get, in some cases, grants. There's a lot of opportunity at the state level. Okay?
Keep going. Yeah, there you go.
And then on top of that, now with the FAA's acceptance of it, you automatically move into a repairman certificate. Now, the third leg to that three-legged stool is we have a new rulemaking activity in Washington where we're looking at the portability of repairman certificates.
Oh boy.
Okay?
Yep.
Still have to work for a repair station, you still have all the regulatory basis, but you know, once the administrator gives you a repairman certificate, you get to take that repairman certificate with you to your next employer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be basically those 3 tiers of being able to really support the next generation workforce.
Wow.
So, and then we partner with organizations here at the show. Next Stop is one of the booths over here. I don't know if you've got a chance to talk to them. They work with employers and do veteran placement, but they work primarily with employers. And so we have them meeting with the AEA member companies here, looking at what they're looking for. Most of AEA and most of the technicians and certainly most of the owners have at least some tie to veterans. Either we are a veteran or somebody close to us. And so they're able to basically take what we've already done for years, bring it around and move it. And so we're looking at career enhancement from literally working with those that are working with the elementary schools, through the apprentice programs, the placement programs, and then finally the veteran placement to bring them into the industry. So we're touching all the bases.
I'll be darned. And I'll tell you what, that was a tight 20 minutes, man. Boy, if I give you another 20, can you keep... Rick, I got to tell you, it's always fun to talk to you, especially since we bust your chops so much and you take it and then you give it back to us and then we really feel foolish. But you've done such a phenomenal job in interpreting the puzzle palaces in Washington and bringing it to not just the AEA community, but aviation at large, and we thank you much for that. You've been one of our favorite interviews all along the way because it's always the serious, cool, interesting, nitty-gritty stuff. If you could explain to people your overall function with AEA so that when they call the organization, they know why you do what you do and, more important, why they need to talk to you.
Okay. Well, I handle regulatory affairs is the short answer.
Yes.
Basically, my role in Washington...
Which, by the way, should be regulatory shenanigans if it's properly...
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, there you go.
But myself and my team, because I do have a team that works with me, we handle regulatory affairs in the 5 domains that the majority of our membership reside in. Canada, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and then obviously US. And so I view myself as being an active member of our members' quality team, our compliance team.
Okay.
So when they have a question about regulations, they want to know, where can I find an advisory circular? Is there a regulation that applies to installing a widget? I help with that. When we find elements out there, I bring it back into the industry and I leverage the industry to find answers, to solve problems, to correct oversights. And so it's a two-way street. I work with the FAA to improve safety downstream, and I work with the membership to improve safety in the upstream. And then I spend about 25% of my time in straight advocacy, where I'm participating in rulemaking. I'm a co-chair of the 145 ARAC. I hope to be participating in the repairman ARAC shortly. A lot of committees, a lot of communities, and basically if something new is coming out, it's my job to at least be aware of it.
Pointy end of the spear, buddy.
That's it.
Rick, as always, appreciate everything. And tell you what, folks, we are literally at tail end Charlie. We have finished 3 hours of live programming today, 3 hours yesterday, 5+ the day before with the MPIs and the speeches and intros, and boy, what an interesting guest speaker in that particular case. I got a feeling that particular cutout is going to be watched and watched and watched and watched. But I have to tell you, overall, we've had a marvelous time here. It has been wonderful to get the band back together after a 2-year interruption or close to that. We're so pleased to see the industry coming back strong and proud and powerful and just ready to go out and do business. In a couple of weeks, we will see you all at Oshkosh. A few weeks after that, we'll see you in Atlanta at AUVSI's Expo. A few weeks after, excuse me, a few weeks after that, Vegas, baby, and NBAA. This is a powerful industry. It can recover. It is recovering. It is asserting its rights to be a part of the world and to take the world from point A to point B with as much safety and convenience as possible. And part of the reason for that is all the people you see around here. The AEA community is extraordinary. One of the reasons we have chosen to work and partner in particular with AEA is because this is where the cool stuff happens. So on behalf of Aero-News, on behalf of AEA, we thank you for sticking with us for the last few hours until Jeff interrupts us again. Hold on.
Silent auction goes in 5 minutes.
So I better finish in 5. Okay. After this, both Rick and I are going to beat the hell out of Jeff. It's been an extraordinary experience. Let me thank, first of all, our man behind the curtain, Nathan Cremasino, our chief videographer. He's been absolutely wonderful. He's done the job that he's needed to do for the last dozen years in this regard, even though the equipment may be cantankerous and people may be busting his chops and, oh yeah, he works for a crazy person. Just done extraordinary work and we appreciate it. Rob Rhodes helped us during the week and we appreciate that. Crystal Knowles has been on the camera, has been our master camera operator and the person we've been tossing jokes at and making fun of her unicorn and all kinds of crazy stuff. And boy, I'll tell you what, always hire a crazy camera operator. It's very entertaining. And then finally, my better half, in every sense of the word, Masako has done yeoman's work getting this thing prepared for. We would not be here without her because I think I'd still be packing stuff in Jacksonville. Just been an amazing couple of days, and it's wonderful when you have great people doing great work for great people who are doing great work to be able to come out and do all this. So for the Aero-News Network, for AEA, for the whole gang, we thank you. We'll see you in March in New Orleans. Oh, baby.
Oh, yes.
I'm ready. We got our restaurants picked out already. We will see you in Oshkosh in a couple of weeks. We'll see you at AUVSI. We'll see you in NBAA. And that's as much as I got to say about it before Jeff interrupts me again. Good night. We'll see you all again in a couple of weeks. Take care from Aero-News and AEA.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 64th Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Dallas, Texas, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Pilot Communications USA is proud to introduce our latest headsets, the Carbon A1 Active Noise Reduction and the Carbon P1 Passive Headset. Carbon fiber makes our headsets 30% lighter than others, which significantly reduces pilot fatigue. Our BlueLink hand control unit allows you to connect 2 devices at the same time, and the record out capability can send audio to an onboard camera or digital recorder. Get the headset that's so light you may forget you're wearing one at pilot-usa.com.
Introducing the new ELT 345 from Artex. This emergency locator transmitter, or ELT, boasts an industry-low price, while providing the same quality and performance on which the Artex brand was built. GPS data is embedded within the first emergency transmission and provides search and rescue personnel with the aircraft location within 100 meters in less than a minute. Take to the skies knowing that you have the highest performing and reliable equipment on board. View our selection of ELTs and safety products at www.artex.com. Artex, your best last chance.